Chapter 1187. Li Chenglong roared, "Boss, let's go. Leave us behind and avenge us." As they spoke, the remaining 10 people joined hands and merged into one, and then they tore through the sky and flew up to meet the bell that was approaching forcefully in midair. With a loud bang, the 10 people launched a self-detonation attack at the same time. They used their lives to open up a way for Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaoyan to survive. The unprecedentedly violent aftermath of the explosion sent Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaoyan flying thousands of miles away, but however, Li Chenglong and the others had disappeared forever. Their souls were destroyed, and they would never be seen again. Dong Wang! Dong Wang! Zhuo Xiaoduo screamed at the top of his lungs. In the eyes of Zhuo Chonglu and the others who were watching the heavenly tribulation, they saw the first lightning strike of the Dragon Phoenix tribulation. Zhuo Xiaoduo roared and rushed into the sky to fight against it. However, as soon as they touched, Zhuo Xiaoduo's body was stopped in midair by the lightning strike. Then, two gourds, one black and one white, appeared on Zhuo Xiaoduo's hammer. They rushed into the lightning strike in a delicate manner. The lightning strike flashed wildly for a while. Under the heavenly tribulation, Zhuo Xiaoduo's body flickered. One moment, it was transparent and shining, and the next moment, it was as black as ink. The first lightning strike was blocked by the two gourds. Zhuo Chonglu murmured in disbelief. What gourds were so powerful? Wu Yuding was also puzzled, but there was a hint of relief on her face. However, even with their high cultivation, they could not see the illusions that Zhuo Xiaoduo experienced. Even in Zhuo Zhonglu's eyes, the first lightning tribulation had already ended. However, he didn't know that the lingering charm of the great Tao was still operating silently. The outside world watched as Zhuo Xiaoduo fought against the Dragon Phoenix tribulation lightning. However, in this short period of time, Zhuo Xiaoduo had experienced countless illusions. With his wisdom, he could quickly wake up even in an illusion created by the heavenly tribulation. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo was completely immersed in the illusion created by the heavenly tribulation. This was the most dangerous manifestation of the heavenly tribulation. Once there was a deviation in one's thoughts, one's inner demon would be hidden, it would be shackled for life. Only when one experienced the tribulation and became a saint would one be able to get rid of the inner demon. However, since ancient times, there were very few people who could walk on the path of the heavenly tribulation saint. And Zhuo Xiaoduo was going through such a test. This was the heavenly tribulation of the heavenly tribulation. In fact, if one's thoughts were slightly off or if one made a wrong move, one would be consigned to eternal damnation by the inner demons. That as the second lightning tribulation struck, the two small gourds rushed out again. Just like before, they rushed into the heavenly tribulation to stop the momentum of the heavenly tribulation lightning. However, this lightning bolt was almost twice as powerful as the previous one. Even the combined power of Bai and Jiu could not stop it. The remaining power was transmitted to Zhuo Xiaoduo, who was still fixed in the air. The skin and flesh of his entire head were immediately charred. With a boom, his entire body was wrapped in flames. The world was instantly filled with the fragrance of roasted meat. Wu Yuding was about to rush out with tears in her eyes. "Don't move." Zhuo Chonglu grabbed her. Duoduo's body is full of vitality. Although it was full of vitality and life aura, Wu Yuding was so heartbroken that her heart convulsed when she saw her son burning into a ball of fire. My own son, whom I can't even bear to hit, is being abused like this. So Xiaoduo, who was in the middle of the heavenly tribulation lightning, was enduring the destruction of the two extremes. Now, it was not only the spiritual pain from the illusion, but also the physical pain from the outside world. Both his body and mind were under pressure. He saw it again. He saw his parents' souls imprisoned in the netherworld and tortured for eternity. "I'm going to tear down this netherworld." So Xiaoduo cursed and roared madly. "I must tear it down." In all the illusions that Zhuo Xiaoduo had encountered so far, he had always chosen the same way to deal with them, without exception. fight head-on. If Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuting knew about the illusions that Zhuo Xiaoduo encountered, they would definitely be shocked and in disbelief. Firstly, it was too much. Secondly, it was Zhuo Xiaoduo's character. When did that slippery and sly little dog, who ran faster than a rabbit whenever there was danger, change his character and fight head-on in a way that he would never choose? Little did they know that this was Zhuo Xiaoduo's true character. Zhuo Xiaoduo's superficial character was the character that he had always shown to the outside world. Of course, it was also his true character, but it was only a part of his true character. A person like Zhuo Xiaoduo would face most of the events rationally. That is, after careful consideration, he would respond to them. This was the so-called plan before acting. However, if he encountered a strong stimulus or some sudden big event, he would choose to fight head-on regardless of everything. When Zhuo Xiaoduo faced a huge force, he used this kind of reckless attitude to fight back. Since when did he have the slightest bit of cowardice to avoid it? Zhuo Xiaoduo was a hidden dragon. Facing so many crafty schemes and perilous waves, Zhuo Xiaoduo didn't dodge. He also fought back. In Baishan City, there were still no plots and tricks. He just fought head-on, including this time when he went to the Umno Alliance. In a desperate situation, Zhuo Xiaoduo's choice was still fearless. He just fought back. In the territory of the demon race, he accidentally saw Zhang Xuejuan being captured, which could be said to be the best reflection of his character. In that case, if it were Long Yuxing or Li Chenglong, there was a 99% chance that they wouldn't help. This didn't mean that they were afraid of death and didn't care about their feelings. It was a rational choice, knowing that it was useless to rush out and save their useful bodies. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo's choice was different. When a situation came to a head, he chose to fight head-on. He would always fight head-on, and he would fight head-on. Normally, if there was a 10% chance of danger, Zhuo Xiaoduo would choose to temporarily retreat and take a roundabout route to avoid the danger. But when it came to a critical moment, as long as he felt that it was his business, even if there was only a 1% chance of success, he would fight back. In all fairness, Zhuo Xiaoduo's character had a great flaw. He was definitely not a suitable candidate to be a general or a prime minister, or even a decision-making person. All the sly and cunning people were wrapped up in a heart that would never turn back once the sword was drawn. He would rather die in glory than live in dishonor. It was just like what he had said in the dreamland. My parents raised me. Even if it's the enemy's wish, I won't hesitate. Therefore, he would rather choose not to take revenge and choose to fulfill his filial piety at the last moment, even if it was just protecting his parents' bodies for a second. Even if I cut my enemy into pieces, it's not as good as holding you for a second at this moment. If I don't accompany you, I'm afraid you'll be afraid. Therefore, in the second illusion, he chose to die together with Zhuo Xiaoyan. Li Chenglong and the others were killed. At that time, Zhuo Xiaoduo had completely lost the so-called standards of justice, good, and evil in his heart. I only want revenge. I don't care how many innocent people I kill. Your country killed my brothers, so you'll all die with them. As for the reputation behind me, what does it have to do with me? Could it be that he was going to give up on avenging his brothers just because of a few words from others? Zhuo Xiaoduo's goal had always been clear, even simple. He was not as cunning as he usually was when it came to the people he valued. He would not care about gains and losses, nor would he consider self-preservation. If people did not offend him, he would not offend them. If people offended him, he would kill their entire family and army. He knew better than anyone else about seeking good fortune and avoiding evil. He knew better than anyone where it was safe and where it was dangerous. However, when it was time for him to make a choice, he would always go forward without hesitation. He knew better than anyone else and understood better than anyone else. However, when it came down to it, all the logic could not compare to the obsession in his heart. These are my parents. I'll protect them. These are my wives. I'll protect them. These are my friends. I'll protect them. This was Zhuo Xiaoduo. He was usually extremely greedy, stingy, and slippery, but deep down, he was stubborn. He only cared about the present and did not care about the future. He was a person with a huge flaw in his character. However, This Zhuo Xiaoduo, with a huge flaw in his character, was the most authentic Zhuo Xiaoduo. Even if I survive, I'll be able to shake the world and surpass the past and present in the future. However, I only care about the present. So, I only care about the present. The third lightning tribulation continued to rumble and fall. Bai and Jiu were already somewhat powerless, but they still chose to go against the current. However, this time, they were faced with a lightning tribulation that was twice as strong. They finally screamed in pain. Although the tribulation lightning was of great benefit to the two of them, they were still in their infancy, so their power was relatively limited, especially when they had to accept the benefits and endure the boundless pain in the process of absorbing the benefits. It was not an easy task. Fortunately, at this moment, another strong helper appeared. Zhuo Xiaoduo's body suddenly flashed, and the cat spirit sword flew out. On the tip of the sword, the black light was so condensed that it was almost solid. A destructive aura suddenly filled the sky and the earth. In the face of such extreme destructive power, even the lightning tribulation of the heavenly Tao had to avoid it. The sword light kept trembling in the lightning tribulation. The black light was still condensed and rushed to the left side of Bai and Jiu with irresistible force. The two climbed onto the sword, one on the left and one on the right. Then, the three chis flowed together and exploded with unprecedented ferocity, counterattacking against the current. The sudden appearance of this sword light actually split open the third lightning tribulation, clearly splitting it in the middle. The cat spirit sword flashed with sword light and rushed to the clouds. However, after losing the black light, it inevitably became weak and fell down. A ray of demonic light, a ray of white light, and a ray of black light. The three chis merged and then separated, returning to Zhuo Xiaoduo's body. It was not that the god-killing spear Yanshursi did not want to try his best, but he was really weak. Previously, when he launched this attack, Bai and Jiu, who were being hammered by tens of thousands of lightning tribulations, broke through the third lightning tribulation and brought them back. After that, he did not have much strength left. At least, today, he cannot fight anymore. That I feel a little dizzy. I still want to write the 5th chapter. I will write it. If I can write it, I will post it. If I can't, there's nothing I can do. If I can't write it, I will post a single chapter and ask for votes. Chapter 1188. Clang. The cat spirit sword rolled down from the sky and embedded itself into the mountain rock. Although the sword was mottled, it still shone brightly. The benefits the spirit cat sword received from this heavenly tribulation were unimaginable. Under the protection of the god-slaying spear, Yanshursi, it was equivalent to being tempered by the heavenly tribulation once again. The 4th bolt of heavenly tribulation was mixed with boundless purple energy. It was even more powerful than the first 3 bolts of heavenly tribulation. The wind howled, and even the meteors that were about to hit the ground were blown away. No one knew where they landed. Zhuo Xiaoduo had survived the first 3 bolts of heavenly tribulation. Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding heaved a sigh of relief and looked at each other. What was the origin of those 2 small gourds? And what was that destructive black light filled with demonic flames and demonic chi that soared into the sky? When did the cat spirit sword become so powerful that it could split the heavenly tribulation? Even with the help of the 3 chi, it shouldn't be so powerful. The 4th bolt of heavenly tribulation seemed to be dissatisfied with the fact that it could split the 3rd bolt of heavenly tribulation. It seemed to want to destroy Zhuo Xiaoduo in one fell swoop. At this moment, a ball of red light appeared on Zhuo Xiaoduo's body and faced the 4th bolt of heavenly tribulation. Caw! A strange cry abruptly rang out. A 3-legged crow appeared on top of Zhuo Xiaoduo's head. Bai was standing on his left shoulder, and Jiu was on his right shoulder. One was white and tender, and the other was black and charmingly naive. The 3-legged crow flapped its wings, and with a boom it then transformed into the grand sun primordial fire that soared into the sky. Unparalleled flames soared into the sky. In the grand sun primordial flame, the shadow of the three-legged crow stood still and leisurely. The flame that shot up into the sky was even crazier than the heavenly tribulation that had just descended from the nine heavens. In an instant, the grand sun primordial flame carried by Ngio into the heavenly tribulation. Then, a series of crackling sounds could be heard. It was only a momentary stalemate. The lightning quickly suppressed the grand sun primordial fire and continued to sweep down. Just like before, it completely enveloped Zhou Xiaoduo's body. Zhou Xiaoduo's limbs, starting from his fingers to his toes, were visibly charred and carbonized before turning into ashes. All the true essence in his body was released, and, at the same time, the boundless life force in his sea of consciousness moved. As a result, endless vitality gushed out from his body. His entire body turned into a green ball of light amidst the lightning tribulation. Amidst the screams, that his upper body had already melted down to his left and right shoulders, while his lower body had melted down to his dantian. The originally irreversible crisis of his physical body being destroyed was actually stopped and pushed back by the green light. Then, in the midst of the lightning tribulation, he recovered and was reborn at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, his arms and legs were back to normal. Dark clouds covered the sky. The roars of dragons and cries of phoenixes, the heavenly tribulation hung in the sky. The true flames of the sun, they collided violently. Zhou Changlu's face sank as he muttered, "This is too much." Wu Yuting's face was filled with anger, heartache, and helplessness as well. With the couple's experience, they could naturally tell that the fourth lightning tribulation was the most extreme type of lightning tribulation. It was clearly meant to kill. From the current outcome, Zhou Xiaoduo had indeed gained a lot of benefits. His originally destroyed limbs and even parts of his body had been tempered by the heavenly Tao, becoming even stronger and tougher. However, such benefits were clearly not something a Skysoar realm cultivator should be able to bear. After withstanding the heavenly tribulation, there would naturally be boundless benefits. However, the prerequisite for all of this was that one had to withstand it first. If one couldn't overcome it, everything would turn into ashes. What else could one say? The previous lightning tribulation had long surpassed the limits of a Skysoar realm cultivator's tribulation. If it weren't for the two gourds and the bird's three parallel forces, if it weren't for the mysterious, boundless vitality in Zhou Xiaoduo's body, then, even if Zhou Changlu wanted to save him, it would be too late. Zhou Xiaoduo would undoubtedly die. There are actually 6 more lightning tribulations like this. Wu Yuting muttered. She really couldn't bear it anymore. If something like this happened again, Zhou Xiaoduo wouldn't be able to withstand it and would die without leaving a trace in this world. However, the problem was right before their eyes. If they didn't let their son try, their son's future would be ruined. However, if they let their son try, the price of failure would be eternal damnation. There would be no way out. Parents were always so conflicted. Zhou Chenglu frowned as he carefully observed the soul, true fire rising from the lightning tribulation. Even in the midst of the lightning tribulation, it was still burning fiercely. Let's wait a little longer. Zhou Chenglu frowned and said, "Heaven is fair." There's an ancient saying that karma has a cause. The heavenly tribulation wouldn't deliberately target people like this. If heaven is really fair, then Xiao Duo must have a life-saving trump card that we don't know about. It's enough to deal with the current situation. The green vitality from before is a clear proof. We don't know, but it doesn't hinder heaven's senses. It took those factors into consideration and added them into the equation. That's why Xiao Duo's current heavenly tribulation is so difficult. Let's wait a little longer. Wu Yuting sighed worriedly. To be honest, now I somewhat understand how Xiao Duo's karma came about. Zhou Chenglu sighed. You suspect the origin of the gourds? Wu Yuting asked. Zhou Zhanglu said with a serious look in his eyes. If my guess is correct, and the origin of that pair of gourds is as I think, then the karma on little Duo's body is going to be huge. At the very least, it's going to break the heavens. Wu Yuting pondered for a moment and said, but according to legend, There are only 7 gourds, and each has its own master. Regardless of appearance, power, or attribute, they're completely different from the 2 small gourds. Maybe it's just a coincidence? Zhuo Changlu nodded thoughtfully and said, "It's what you're thinking. That makes me a little uncertain." Wu Yuding could understand that he was unsure. On the other hand, Heaven was also uncertain. Now, I finally know the origin of the demon clan's fate in him. Zhuo Changlu looked at the soul, true fire, burning fiercely in the lightning tribulation. His eyes were solemn and even a little emotional. That 3-legged bird. Looks like a crow, right? Wu Yuding was stunned. 3-legged golden crow. Yes, it's the 3-legged golden crow. But the 3-legged golden crow is the bloodline of the demon emperor. How did Xiao Duo get it? This, I don't know, Zhuo Changlu said. Suddenly, his eyes focused. The two of them looked at each other and suddenly blurted out at the same time, "Crown Prince Academy." If that's the case, Wu Yuding was shocked. This is the demon clan's crown prince who died? Zhuo Changlu only felt a little toothache. This, I don't dare to say. Wu Yuding slapped her forehead. By the way, what's that green light? That's the extremely abundant life origin energy. We know that Gouda has many secret methods, and that strange stone is one of them. But we didn't expect him to have such a backup. If we trace the origin of the green light and infer its true power, I'm afraid that it's even more powerful than us. Wu Yuding said, "After the tribulation, we'll interrogate him properly. He's our son. What can we find out?" "Yes, I'm thinking too much. By the way, that black light seems to be the source of karma that binds the demon clan." Wu Yuding immediately thought of this. Zhuo Changlu's mouth twitched. He said, "That thing is also evil. I'm afraid that it doesn't only represent the demon clan, but also the demon ancestor. My father?" Wu Yuding immediately knew that she had misunderstood. Her eyes widened. "Ancient demon ancestor, the god-killing spear. That should be it." Zhuo Zhanglu nodded. Just a little bit of black qi is enough to evolve into a weapon with such a murderous aura. It's so fierce, and its demonic flames overflowing into the sky. Since time immemorial, only one weapon could have such a strange power. It's the god-killing spear, known as the world's #1 murderous aura. Even the legendary Yuan-2 and immortal slaying weapons are inferior to it in terms of murderous aura and ferocity. Wu Yuding was even more speechless. The little dog actually had so many treasures on him. It was not wrong for the Dragon Phoenix tribulation to strike him like this. According to ancient legends, in ancient times, the dragons, phoenixes, and Qilins ruled the world. Later on, the war between the dragons and phoenixes was the beginning of the Dragon Phoenix tribulation. However, the end of the war between the dragons and phoenixes was a lose-lose situation. It was also because of this that the ancient demon court and the Wu people rose. After that war, the dragons and phoenixes were unable to recover. No one knew what exactly happened. It was already difficult to verify. However, whether it was the ancient demon ancestor or the demon emperor brothers, they had all placed their pieces in the great calamity back then and pushed the war between the two races. It was certain. Then, more or less, it was difficult to avoid subtle karma. Now that the Dragon Phoenix tribulation had arrived, the demon ancestor's weapon had appeared, and the demon emperor's crown prince had also appeared, that wouldn't the Dragon Phoenix tribulation in the sky strike you to death? Would you be left to give birth to children? This little dog, Wu Yuding, was helpless. Let's continue watching. Zhuo Changlu sighed. I think there should be more surprises coming one after another. After all, this is only the 4th one. The 4th lightning tribulation ended. Zhuo Xiaoduo's body recovered in the air, and the green light gradually dissipated. A dragon's roar and a phoenix's cry resounded in the sky together. Light flashed, and the 5th lightning tribulation arrived as expected. With the previous experience, Xiao carried by and Jiao without fear. She turned into the grand sun true fire again and rushed forward, but this time, it didn't even manage to withstand a single blow. As soon as she rushed into the lightning tribulation, Xiao let out an extremely miserable cry. On one side of the lightning tribulation, The extremely handsome phoenix suddenly opened its mouth and spat out a ball of red light. Damn crow, there was actually another one here. You're going to be reborn. Da Xiao was immediately wrapped in red light from head to toe. She was burning and filled with the fragrance of roasted meat as she fell down. On the other hand, and Jiu rushed into the lightning tribulation due to inertia. Xiao, who was tragically engulfed by the red light, hovered in the air. The red light continued to rise, and the red was magnificent. It was so red that it dazzled people. You won't believe me if I say that I'm exhausted, but there's no other way. There's still more than an hour to double the votes. Also, please be thick-skinned and ask for tips. It's said that the monthly votes for tips have increased by 4 times during this period of time. The goal of the mission is difficult. Please help me. Today, I hope everyone has a good time. I thought I could finish writing about the tribulation, but in the end, I still left something unfinished. Chapter 1189. Xiao screamed miserably. Zhao's wings flapped crazily on both sides. The grand sun primordial fire in its body gushed out layer by layer, but it could not break through the blockade of the red flame, until the grand sun primordial fire accumulated to the point of almost exploding. Finally, a wisp of white flame broke through the red light. More grand sun primordial fire came out, burning fiercely. The red light covering the body gradually disintegrated. Finally, boomed, all the grand sun primordial fire burst out, like a huge sun rising in the sky. Xiao fell to the ground, dying. Its feathers were all roasted. Its naked body was pockmarked, cleaner than a bald chicken in a pot of boiling water. The 3 legs quickly ran in the direction of Zhuo Xiaoduo. His mouth was croaking, and his eyes were filled with panic and fear. It was terrified. It was roasted into a bald bird. Just a little bit more, and he would have been cooked. Mama, mama, mama. It hurts so much, I'm scared to death. I want kisses, hugs, and hugs. But who would have thought that I would be roasted one day? Sigh, was what Changlu sighed, the nirvana, true fire. Sure enough, the phoenix has made a move. In front of the phoenix, even the 3-legged golden crow has to retreat. What nonsense are you talking about? Wu Yuding was unhappy and said, You didn't see that the little crow hasn't grown up yet. It will be more powerful than the phoenix when it grows up. Wu Yuding had never met the 3-legged golden crow, but since it was her son's pet, it was naturally good. Zhuo Changlu, how dare you belittle my son's pet? Zhuo Changlu smiled calmly and said, It makes sense. I think so too. His face was expressionless. Under the tribulation thunder. The 5th tribulation thunderstruck Zhuo Xiaoduo's chest faster than the 4th. In an instant, Zhuo Xiaoduo's dantian on his chest and back fell into a state of melting and disappearing, inch by inch. Without any delay, the green aura of vitality appeared once again and quietly landed on Zhuo Xiaoduo's limbs that had been completely refined. The green light was still very strong. Even though it was constantly being burned into smoke, it was still able to protect his limbs. That after the 5th thunder tribulation, Zhuo Xiaoduo's body reassembled and regained its human form. After the 4th lightning tribulation, the endless green life force also dealt with the 5th lightning tribulation. At this moment, Zhuo Xiaoduo finally let out its first howl. His face was contorted and his muscles were spasming. It was too painful. She hadn't called him out ever since she came in. Pu, 2 little fellows, one white and one black, fell from the sky and entered the divine sense space in a flash. Obviously, these 2 little fellows had reached their limits and were unable to continue for a while. However, even though the tribulation lightning was so violent, Bai and Jiu were able to advance and retreat with ease. However, the 6th dragon phoenix tribulation lightning still fell from the sky, so Xiaoduo still could not move. This time, there was no grand sun primordial flame, nor was there a white and black figure appearing above their heads. However, there was a flash of light, and sword energy soared into the sky. Another sword appeared above Zhuo Xiaoduo's head in a dazzling manner. It stood in the sky, and its sword light flashed in all directions, as if it was the ruler of the world. The 6th lightning tribulation lightning was halfway through its descent, and it was about to hit the sword when something unprecedented happened. With a puff, it made a turn and missed its target. The lightning tribulation lightning crashed down into the bottomless abyss with a loud boom. The mountains and valleys rumbled for a long time, without end. That the lightning tribulation lightning missed its target. Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding froze at the sight of this. Their eyes were glazed over, and they felt like they were in a fantasy. This was completely beyond their common sense. Without the intervention of external forces, there was no way the lightning tribulation lightning could miss its target. But now it actually missed its target. It was obvious that the lightning tribulation lightning missed its target after seeing this sword. In other words, the lightning tribulation lightning was afraid of this sword. It didn't dare to strike it. What the hell, what? What kind of sword is that? Or rather, whose sword is it? How could it be so majestic? Even more ridiculous things happen one after another. The seventh lightning tribulation lightning also missed its target and didn't greet the sword. Could it be a lightning rod? Zhuo Xiaoyan asked innocently. Lightning rod. Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding were speechless. Little girl, how did you advance to your current cultivation realm with your IQ? How could you say such a stupid thing? If there was such an awesome lightning rod in the world, even a flood would need it. This should be an instrument of virtue. Zhuo Changlu sighed and gave the only answer he knew. Before he could finish his sentence, he subconsciously touched the 40-meter-long saber in his ring. Then he looked at the majestic Wahuang sword in the sky and couldn't help but feel a little ashamed. I've been at the top for my whole life, and I still don't have as many good things as my son, but my name doesn't sound as good as my son's either. From now on, I'll be called Zhuo Changlu. Long road. Sounds better than Xiao Duo, right? Zhuo Changlu sighed for a long time. Then he saw Bai and Jiu's bodies flashing with green light. They rushed out energetically and hung on to the Wahuang sword, trembling as if they were urging something. The Wahuang sword had no choice but to rush into the eighth lightning tribulation lightning with the two little ones. After sending Bai and Jiu into the lightning tribulation, the Wahuang sword disappeared. It was a special existence that shouldn't appear in the heavenly tribulation. The Wahuang sword had a heaven-nourishing merit left on it. It wasn't that the heavenly tribulation couldn't hurt it, but it didn't dare to, because it was kind to the heavenly Tao. Because of this reason, it either didn't appear or blocked the heavenly tribulation lightning. However, the Wahuang sword chose to stand out and block the two lightning tribulations because it now understood its new master's temper. As an item of merit, it was understandable that it didn't go out to block the heavenly tribulation lightning. But now, all the other treasures went out to block the heavenly tribulation. If it insisted on staying here and sleeping indifferently, they could imagine what kind of treatment it would receive in the future. This guy might do something like directly soak it in a cesspool forever. This was a real possibility. In this kid's eyes, its status was far inferior to his pair of hammers, that after considering the consequences, the Wahuang sword made a decisive choice. It temporarily put down its position and helped Xiao. Seeing that the Wahuang sword had disappeared, the eighth lightning tribulation lightning finally rushed down and grabbed Xiaoduo's head forcefully. At this moment, Xiaoduo had already experienced hundreds and thousands of reincarnation illusions. But its choice was still, or it could be said that its intestines were always open to the end. It was a path that was brash to the end. Under the protection of the flickering green, Xiaoduo went from nothing to nothing, and from nothing to something again. A bald head that was like an egg that had just come out of its shell appeared under the flickering lightning tribulation lightning. And the pain that Xiaoduo was enduring also rose to the extreme at this moment. With the return of Bai and Jiu, the ninth lightning tribulation lightning followed closely behind in an impatient manner. The ninth heavenly Tao lightning tribulation that was following behind was even more terrifying than the previous 8 heavenly Tao lightning tribulations combined. It was continuous like a dragon, almost similar to the golden dragon that had just appeared. It was incomparably huge, like the might of the heavens. Even though the greenery was still endless, could it really withstand it? Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding's hearts were in their throats. Zhuo Changlu was even more determined. If something went wrong, he would still follow the original plan and give up the throned Dharma body to blow up the last lightning tribulation dragon. Unexpectedly, at the last moment, a huge dragon formed purely out of fog wriggled out of Zhuo Xiaoduo's body. Suddenly, its body was tens of thousands of feet long, comparable to the lightning tribulation dragon in the sky. Compared to the golden dragon and the phoenix from before, it was a tripartite balance of power. A silent dragon roar resounded through the void. This was a sound that no one could hear, but all of them knew and felt. A dragon roared into the sky just now. Above the lightning tribulation, the golden dragon's eyes flashed. Rumble. Endless lightning tore the fog dragon into pieces. Once again, it fell on Zhuo Xiaoduo's head. It was still flickering, full of green, from nothing to something. This process may have taken a long time, or even a short while, but finally it was over. In an instant, Zhuo Xiaoduo only felt that the indestructible barrier in his body was suddenly smashed into pieces like a piece of glass that had been smashed by a hammer. It could no longer be sustained. Boundless spiritual energy immediately rushed over like a tsunami. His whole body also floated up after the ninth lightning tribulation. Lightning disappeared. The wounds all over his body were all healed in an instant. There was no part of his body that was not at ease. A comfortable feeling suddenly emerged and flowed throughout his body. I'm flying. I'm flying. Ow, ow, ow. So Xiaoduo couldn't help but laugh. He roared into the sky, waved his hands, and said incoherently, "So good, so good. I've succeeded. I've survived the lightning tribulation. As expected of me, I'm still me." Wu Yuding was anxious and angry at the same time. "Stupid, there's more. It's not over yet." So Xiaoduo was stunned when he heard this. He thought that his breakthrough meant that the lightning tribulation was over. There's more. When he looked up, he saw that not only was the tribulation eye in the sky still there, but seemed to be bigger than before and was slowly rotating again. This rotation was very slow and very condensed. Endless spiritual energy rapidly gathered into the tribulation eye, obviously preparing for the next wave of attack. The golden dragon reappeared, and its huge head stared at Xiaoduo from beside the tribulation eye. The phoenix also appeared and hovered on the other side of the tribulation eye, also watching Xiaoduo. For some reason, Xiaoduo felt that. The dragon and the phoenix's gazes were somewhat complicated. What's going on? At this moment, a dragon's roar and a phoenix's cry sounded at the same time. Then, the golden dragon soared into the sky and hovered together with the phoenix. Then, at the same time, it turned into the purest energy and poured into the tribulation eye. The sky suddenly became cloudless, and only a huge tribulation eye was left, ready to attack. Obviously, this was going to be an unprecedented attack. So Xiaoduo jumped in fright as he felt a pressure that could destroy heaven and earth. He immediately panicked. There was no way he could withstand this lightning tribulation. Chapter 1190. This was the final blow, the final test, and also the final baptism. The next step was to succeed. It was to transcend. If he couldn't withstand it, he would die. He would die, and his Tao would vanish. Everyone knew this. However, the power of this single bolt of tribulation lightning was so great that even Zhuo Zhonglu felt threatened by it. The energy in the eye of the tribulation was still gathering. It was getting bigger and bigger, flickering between life and death. The power of the wind and clouds in the sky was sucked into the eye of the tribulation. So Xiaoduo gritted his teeth and stood firmly on the ground. He held the cat's hammer in his hand and locked his mind on the cat's spirit sword. He even pressed the small piece of the heaven-mending stone under his tongue. He was going to face the attack with his strongest and even most extraordinary state. And Jiao went into the hammers with a whoosh. Yan Shirsi struggled to stay in position in the cat's spirit sword. Seeing that his condition had reached its peak, Xiaoduo shouted, "Let's go all out! Fight!" Xiao staggered over and raised his head. He flapped his featherless wings pitifully, revealing his bare buttocks. He gestured, "Mama, I really want to kill the thief now, but I can't do anything about it." Looking at the charred Xiao, Xiaoduo felt that he could eat this guy directly if it wasn't for the two small round eyes that were still rolling around. The texture was crunchy, but the taste might not be good. After all, he was completely charred. In view of this, Xiaoduo moved his mind and put Xiao into the Tower of Annihilation. At this moment, in just half a breath, the eye of the tribulation in the sky increased by at least 30%. What did it mean for a sphere to increase by 30%? Although Xiaoduo was not bad at mathematics, he couldn't make a fundamental difference. However, the increase in threat was definitely not as simple as 30%. Xiaoduo, who was already feeling guilty, instinctively sighed and summoned the Huang sword. This time, the sword of Emperor Envihua didn't retreat because the last lightning tribulation ignored everything. Normally, the heavenly tribulation should have ended after the previous lightning tribulation. However, this additional lightning tribulation was the greatest fortune and opportunity. As long as they could withstand it, there would be great rewards for any weapon or life that participated in the resistance. A bolt of lightning from the heavens to the earth. Xiao Long's misty body, which appeared for the first time in the world, circled around Xiaoduo's body. Xiaoduo thought about it, and still felt that it was not enough. It was not safe enough. He then took out the heaven and earth treasures that Wei Yuding had given him. He didn't care whether it was a waste or not, and stuffed a dozen of them into his stomach. Let them ferment. Oh no! Hurry up and release your spiritual energy. As for the Skysoar Realm cultivator, one pill was enough for him to fully recover. He even swallowed 8 pills in one go. Feeling that it was not enough, he swallowed another 10 pills as if he was eating jelly beans. After asking for Little White's and Little Gio's permission, he also extracted a little bit of the ocean-like origin spiritual energy in his sea of consciousness. It wasn't that Xiaoduo didn't want to extract more, but the quality of the life origin energy was too high. Xiaoduo couldn't control it all. Even with the help of Xiao Long and Xiao Long, he could only use a little bit of it. But at this point, Xiaoduo still felt that it wasn't safe. To be absolutely safe, he took out the emerald green wooden tablet that Elder One gave him and muttered, "Elder One, boss, you have to help me this time." Before he could finish his sentence, he crushed the emerald green wooden tablet, and a ball of green light rose up. In an instant, the entire mountain was covered with grasshopper plants. Well, in the modern realm, it should be called purslane. Patches of green spread out rapidly, covering a radius of several thousand li in an instant. Even the feet of Zui Changlu and the others were covered with grasshopper plants. The leaves grew thicker and thicker, and they continued to grow. Then, small red by flowers bloomed all of a sudden. Although a single red and white flower didn't have a strong fragrance, when so many flowers bloomed together, the fragrance was naturally refreshing and intoxicating. The grasshopper under his feet grew bigger and bigger, blooming and growing continuously. After a while, it simply climbed up Xiaoduo's body, turning his entire body into a green, oily color. After a few breaths of time, Xiaoduo's body also started to bloom. The fragrance started to spread, refreshing everyone's heart. Not only was this unforeseen change sudden and unexpected, but it was also mysterious. Or rather, it was too strange. Even the tribulation eye in the sky couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. It stopped spinning for about half a second, although it started spinning again immediately. This short pause was very clear. Obviously, even the tribulation lightning was speechless. That kid down there. Do you know what you're doing? If you just let us strike you one last time, we'd be done with it. But now, you've created so many things. What are you trying to do? If we strike you too lightly, I'm afraid you'll explode from these things that you've set up yourself. Damn. How afraid of death is it? Is this really the same person as the brat that we trained before who only knew how to act recklessly? Where did the heroic spirit, the valiant and unafraid of death, the sword of no return, the person who exterminated the world, go? Could it be that he had a split personality, or that he had two souls in one body. How strange. Then there was another rumbling sound that heaven and earth were filled with endless white light. At this moment, white light, purple light, and colorful light that it flew in all directions, and heaven and earth were burning. Even Zhuo Changlu and his wife couldn't see anything. It was really too bright. An unprecedentedly huge lightning ball fell down like a mountain. In just a moment, it smashed down on Zhuo Xiaoduo's head. Boom! At this moment, even Zhuo Changlu was dumbfounded by the collision. Even his body started to shake. At that moment, he clearly saw the grasshopper plants thousands of miles away fly up from the ground. Although it was like a mayfly trying to shake a tree, it still charged forward bravely. Yes, but in terms of momentum, it was really not inferior to the tribulation lightning of the heavenly law. Some plants, the most common grasshopper plants, could burst out the power comparable to the tribulation lightning of the heavenly realm. If he didn't see it with his own eyes, would he believe it? Zhuo Changlu wanted to say that he wouldn't believe it even if he saw it with his own eyes. How could there be such crazy and cool grasshopper plants in this world? Were they trying to defy the heavens? Then, the spiritual sword that was full of the aura of the emperor rushed straight into the tribulation clouds. There was also the cat spirit sword that was mixed with the essence of the demonic aura. The demonic flames surged into the sky and shot into the tribulation clouds. The two cat hammers also circled and rotated like a black and white Tai Chi diagram, and its power hit the tribulation clouds. There seemed to be some other lights flashing. In short, countless lights burst out at the same time and exploded. Rumble. The extreme impact from heaven and earth, the death cliff, which was the foothold, suddenly collapsed because it couldn't bear it anymore. A huge amount of gravel rushed into the sky, and many even rushed out tens of thousands of meters in one breath. With the sound of thunder, the whole sky was covered with dark clouds, and it started to rain crazily. The raindrops directly connected into a line. In just a moment, a vast ocean had accumulated on the ground, as if the heavenly Duke was suddenly angry and poured a basin of water from above. Or maybe the heavenly river suddenly burst, and countless raindrops fell into the human world, instantly forming a country of water. However, the tribulation was already over. The tribulation eye in the sky had already disappeared after the last tribulation lightning struck. Duo. Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding saw that the tribulation was over, and they shouted together and started to rush towards Wu Xiaoduo. They could finally move. Also, both of them felt that their son's life force was still there, but it was very weak. At this moment, they were extremely excited. Wu Yuding rushed 2 steps and suddenly stopped. She turned her head and looked at her daughter strangely. Zhuo Xiaoyan was in a daze at this moment. And her hair, why did it explode? Zhuo Xiaoyan's beautiful hair now looked like a chicken nest that had been crazily scratched by 7 or 8 chickens. It was a mess, if it could be said that. If there were 30 million strands of hair on a head, then at this moment, 30 million strands of hair on Zhuo Xiaoyan's head were pointing in 30 million directions. Nian? Wu Yuding was stunned. What happened to you? Zhuo Xiaoyan pursed her lips and cried. I don't know what happened. Just now, the last tribulation lightning suddenly split off and hit me. It hurts. Wu Yuding was shocked and inexplicably frightened. Hit you? Why didn't I notice? It was clearly right beside me, but I didn't notice that my daughter was struck by lightning. This was simply, are you okay? Wu Yuding asked hurriedly. I'm fine. Zhuo Xiaoyan was completely unprepared to be hit. She felt wronged and her image was ruined, but she really didn't suffer any injuries. Why did this goddamn heavenly tribulation strike me? All right. The tribulation lightning seems to have given me something. Zhuo Xiaoyan scratched her head and muttered to herself. What is it? Wu Yuding was stunned for a moment. She didn't know what to think, but she couldn't help but reach out and touch her daughter's butt. Mom, what are you doing? Zhuo Xiaoyan immediately escaped as if she had been electrocuted. She rolled her eyes and pouted. It's blurry. I'm still sorting it out. But it seems to be called Snow Phoenix Divine Phoenix. Snow Phoenix Divine Phoenix? Wu Yuding muttered to herself. This seemed to be something she had never heard of. What happened? What did it say? No. Zhua Xiaoyan anxiously stretched her neck and looked to the other side. How's Duo? Wu Yuting's heart palpitated, and she seemed to be thinking about something. Her eyes were full of reminiscence, and she didn't hear Zhua Xiaoyan's question. Zhua Xiaoyan came to her senses. She tidied her hair and rushed out. Chapter 1191. Zhua Changlu, Lei Changtian, and Bai Yunduo appeared at the location of Zhua Xiaoduo's tribulation almost as soon as the eye of the thunder tribulation disappeared. Then, with a wave of his hand, countless pieces of gravel, no less than hundreds of millions, flew out in all directions. Then they saw the huge pit that was 1,000 meters deep below. Zhua Xiaoduo was in the middle of the huge pit. His whole body was as black as charcoal, and he was lying in the dust. No one knew if he was dead or alive. On the other hand, all the things that helped him overcome the tribulation earlier had vanished without a trace. The grasshopper plants that originally covered an area of thousands of kilometers had vanished without a trace. They'd vanished without a trace. The heavy rain continued to pour down from the sky, and a large amount of rainwater poured into the huge pit that had just been emptied. But Changlu waved his hand, and the huge pit suddenly became dry, as if it had been dry for 10 years. No matter how fierce the surrounding rainwater was, it couldn't enter the pit at all. Zhua Changlu couldn't wait to jump down and carefully picked up Zhua Xiaoduo. Then his expression relaxed, and his eyes flashed with ecstasy. He returned to his normal state and said indifferently, "Let's go back." Well, the usual minister was back. In a flash, he had already arrived in Shangjing City. In another flash, he was already in Zhua Xiaoyan's small courtyard. Next to the bed in the bedroom, he gently put down Zhua Xiaoduo and settled him down properly. In the process of returning to Shangjing and Zhua Xiaoyan's small courtyard, Zhua Xiaoduo's body was covered with healing elixirs. He even gave him 2 pills that could be taken orally. He even helped Zhua Xiaoduo circulate his energy to catalyze the healing process. He was indeed a considerate father who was meticulous in every possible way. Lei Changtian rushed in hurriedly. "How is it?" "It's okay. I passed it smoothly." Zhua Changlu's mouth curved into a smile and said, "You are indeed my son. You survived such a fierce tribulation by yourself." Lei Changtian couldn't stop smiling. "You are indeed my biological grandson. You have the support of my excellent genes." Zhua Changlu's face darkened. He said coldly, Lei Changtian's heart skipped a beat, and his face paled. He hurriedly said, "What I mean is, boss gave birth to the best, Xiao Duo gave birth to the best, and I'm the best, ha ha ha." Wu Yuting came back with Zhua Xiaoyan and Bai Yunduo. Before she entered the house and heard nothing, she said, "Old Zhua, can you not bully my father?" Zhua Zhonglu was so angry that his whole body trembled. "When did I bully him? How am I bullying him?" Lei Changtian nodded and bowed. He said carefully, "Boss is right. I didn't bully you. I didn't bully you. Rainy, why are you so paranoid like those secular women? It will affect the relationship between husband and wife. Look, there's no wound on my face at all." Wu Yuting rolled her eyes speechlessly. Then she rushed to the bedside. Duo, how is my Duo? "He's fine. He got through it peacefully. His injuries are a little heavy, so he needs to rest. I've already taken care of his injuries. I promise I'll give you a lively eldest son in 1 night at most." Zhua Changlu smiled. He was very gratified. "Ha!" Wu Yuting laughed. She praised, "How can I be wrong about little doggy? He's my biological son, and he has the support of my excellent genes." Everyone was speechless. "When you were nervous just now, you said, 'My son Duo,' now that you're relaxed. Duo has become little doggy." The change in tone was seamless. The change in tone was exceptionally natural and smooth. Bai Yunduo couldn't help but imagine, if I have a child with Little Tiger, what should I name him? Little Tiger? She felt that it sounded very auspicious. Wu Yuting confirmed that Zhua Xiaoduo's life was not in danger. She paused and asked nervously, "How's the calamity? Is it?" In fact, she already had the answer in her heart. However, she still felt that her idea was too perfect. It was wishful thinking, so she didn't dare to say it out loud. She had to get confirmation from her husband. So Changlu smiled and said clearly, affirmatively, blissfully, and decisively, "Perfect." He had a proud look on his face. Ha ha ha. Wu Yuting was so excited that she went crazy. She didn't hide it and laughed loudly. She didn't care that Zhou Xiaoduo was still unconscious. She rushed up to Zhou Xiaoduo and kissed him on the face. "My son is awesome. He's worthy of being called the little doggy with my excellent genes. Ha ha, this is great. He passed the heavenly tribulation perfectly. Perfect. Since ancient times, no one has done it. Moreover, it's the heavenly dragon phoenix tribulation. Oh my God, I was scared to death. But my son did it. He passed it perfectly." At this moment, Wu Yuting's sense of accomplishment and pride was simply bursting through the roof. At this moment, she couldn't wait to announce to the whole world, "My son passed the heavenly tribulation perfectly." Heavenly tribulation. Envy. Envy. Ha ha dot. Zhou Xiaoyan squeezed past Wu Yuting and looked at Zhou Xiaoduo attentively. She wanted to go up and touch him, but was stopped by Wu Yuting. She asked worriedly, "Little doggy, are you okay?" It's fine. As your mother, I promise that I'll return you a healthy and good husband tomorrow." Wu Yuting's mood was relaxed at this moment, so she joked with her daughter and let herself loose. Zhou Xiaoyan twisted her waist and wanted to pout, but she was immediately attracted by Zhou Xiaoduo's skin. She said enviously, "Little doggy, your skin is so white and tender now. There's not even a strand of hair. How did you do it?" Wu Yuting and the others were stunned. They all looked at Zhou Xiaoduo and saw that his skin was really white and tender. In a short period of time, the scorched black appearance of the heavenly tribulation had changed. It was like a freshly cooked tofu or a freshly peeled boiled egg. His skin was really too smooth. It was white with a hint of red. It was different. Not to mention strand of hair, even his eyebrows and eyelashes were gone. Well, to put it bluntly, it was an oversized egg. Everyone thought, and couldn't help but burst into laughter. Let him have a good rest. When he wakes up, everything will be fine. Zhou Changlu said in a low voice. Okay. Zhou Xiaoyan was still worried. She raised her hand and said, "I want to stay and watch him." Wu Yuting said, "Yes, we have to take a good look. Daughter, let me tell you, the puppy is really flying now. The previous restrictions are gone, and we can consummate our marriage. Miss Cat, daughter-in-law." Zhou Xiaoyan's face suddenly turned red, as if blood was about to drip out. She twisted her waist. She covered her hot face and rushed in her room like a gust of wind, refusing to come out. "Hey, didn't you want to stay and watch your little doggy?" Wu Yuting shouted. "I don't want to watch him. I don't want to watch him. Who wants to watch him? Tell him to stay away from me." A shy voice came from inside. It sounded stuffy, as if she was hiding under the quilt. Ha ha! Everyone laughed. They were all immersed in the happy atmosphere of children and forgot about their worries. In all fairness, although Zhou Xiaoduo had passed the heavenly tribulation, his injuries were not light at all. Almost 90% of his bones were broken. From the perspective of the secular world, even if he didn't die, he would be paralyzed for life. However, when Zhou Changlu picked him up, he had been given a large amount of healing pills. Coupled with the self-recovery ability of a high-level Skysoar realm cultivator, he was now lying on the bed. His body was flickering with 9-colored light. Occasionally, red light and purple light would alternate, and occasionally, white light and black light would surround him. It was a sign that his injuries were getting better and his bones were gradually healing. The newly healed bones were also extraordinary. One could clearly see that they had a jade-like texture and were flickering with a faint purple light. In fact, it wasn't just his bones. All the newly healed meridians, and blood vessels were all flowing with a faint purple light. This was a gift from the heavenly Tao. It was also a great blessing bestowed by the heavenly Tao after surviving the heavenly tribulation. Just like that, he lay on the bed. His body was gradually recovering, and his injuries were getting better bit by bit. Some light gray things were constantly seeping out of his pores. These were the impurities that had seeped into his bone marrow during the marrow cleansing. The impurities were difficult to come into contact with even medicinal energy and elemental energy. They were all forced out by the heavenly tribulation. Apart from the bone marrow, there were also impurities deep in his internal organs, and even in his brain. In short, after the heavenly tribulation, Zhuo had truly changed from the inside to the outside. Of course, if this fellow ate and drank like an ordinary person, new impurities would be formed. This was an unavoidable situation no matter what stage and level one's cultivation had reached. Even if one didn't eat or drink and lived on the wind and dew, one still had to breathe and cultivate. There would still be many impurities that would invade one's body. Using the simplest example, before one ascended to the heavens, one's cultivation would be extremely pure. However, after ascending to the heavens, one's cultivation would become full of impurities. This was because no matter how pure one's spiritual energy and vital energy were, it was inevitable that there would be some impurities mixed in. Even this little bit of impurities was no longer compatible with the body of an immortal. In order to achieve the true meaning of being free of impurities, one had to reach the level of a legendary saint. Only then could one be truly free of impurities and be pure and flawless. To use a more common saying as an analogy, even if it was a little fairy, she still had to take a dump. His body automatically adjusted itself while he was unconscious, automatically expelling the impurities that everything was natural. This was the gift of the heavenly tribulation, and the benefits were still continuing. Wu Yuting stayed behind to look after Zhuo. Zhuo Changlu, on the other hand, had an indifferent look on his face, as if he didn't care about his son at all. He invited Lei Changtian out for tea. Bai Yunduo naturally followed to serve him. That after Bai Yunduo left, that Wu Yuting quietly lifted the blanket and checked the other parts of Zhuo Xiaoduo's body. After confirming that there were no mistakes, she heaved a sigh of relief and covered herself with the blanket. Yes, everything was fine. Everything was fine. That was really good. Looking at the sleeping Zhuo Xiaoduo, Wu Yuting's eyes were full of love. Sigh, how'd I give birth so well? I actually gave birth to such a good son. And he's so handsome, so obedient, so upright, so honest, so cute, so simple, so honest, such a genius son. In this world, who dares to compare their son with mine? Who dares to compare their husband with mine? Who dares to compare their son with mine? Ahem, forget it. There's no need to compare their father. But who dares to compare their daughter with mine? Comparing their son-in-law? Comparing their daughter-in-law? Comparing their disciples? Wu Yuting suddenly felt that in this world, she was really the biggest winner. She had a truly perfect life. She couldn't help but feel even more proud. Chapter 1192. Zhuo Xiaoduo seemed to be unconscious, but his consciousness was still wandering in the illusion. As time passed, new illusions were constantly produced, the embers of the dragon phoenix tribulation. The resentment of the dragons and phoenixes was still not over. In the final stage of the ancient battle between the dragons and phoenixes, either both husband and wife died, or only one of them was left. Very, very rarely, there were both husband and wife. In fact, many clans were wiped out. There was no doubt that the dragons and phoenixes, as the protagonists of the first tribulation of the Dragon Han, were not limited to just the dragons and phoenixes. Instead, they included a wide range of clans. For example, the dragons had 9 sons, such as Tao Tai, Pixiu, and Chao Feng. The phoenixes also had descendants, such as Qing Wan, Vermilion Bird, Peacock, and Da Peng. The greatest resentment towards the Dragon Phoenix tribulation was that the wings of a mandarin duck were broken, leaving only a single shadow. And now, this was what Zhuo Xiaoduo had the most illusions that he was constantly experiencing, at the bottom of the death cliff. It was miserable. At the bottom of the death cliff, it was filled with devastation and endless misery. The Huahuang sword rushed out to help and successfully diverted 2 heavenly tribulations. However, it did not eliminate the 2 heavenly tribulations completely. The 2 heavenly tribulations that fell by the side rushed to the bottom of the cliff and the end of the valley. The tribulation lightning had a characteristic, which was that it was extremely targeted. Because of this, it had another characteristic, which was that this kind of target could only be effective if it was a living creature. At that moment, the tribulation lightning that fell by the side quickly reached the bottom of the cliff. At that time, there was a demonic beast at the bottom of the cliff. Although that demonic beast was burrowing its head deep into the ground, not daring to move at all, and even controlling its breathing rate to a barely discernible level, it was still wholeheartedly muttering, "Didn't discover me. Didn't discover me." However, he was still a living being after all. No matter how faint his breathing frequency was, he still existed. Therefore, after discovering the signs of a living being, the tribulation lightning that was aimed at him smashed on the back of his head without any accident. At that moment, a certain demonic beast was stunned. What did I do? What did I do? Why did it suddenly happen? It didn't even leave me any room to prepare beforehand. At least let me know that the tribulation lightning had discovered me and locked onto me. Why did the lightning strike directly at the target? However, he soon felt that the power of this tribulation lightning didn't seem to be very strong. Then he quickly realized that the original target of the lightning tribulation wasn't him. It just missed its target. The lightning tribulation was targeted at a child with a weak cultivation. Of course, it didn't mean anything to him. Well, that wasn't the main point. The main point was why the lightning tribulation missed its target. The only explanation was that this kid must have an item of virtue on him. Fuck, that brat actually has an item of virtue on him? I really can't imagine it. I've seen that kid up close. With his shallow cultivation, he actually has an item of virtue and can even use it in this kind of atmosphere, causing the lightning tribulation to deviate and bring disaster to the innocent bystanders. It's really fucked up, but only in this way would the tribulation lightning miss its target without any warning. He also knew that after the tribulation lightning missed, it would instinctively choose the left side of this kid and continue to strike towards the same creatures. Although it wasn't close to the kid, according to the kid's position, it was as if the kid was directly on top of its head. Therefore, the tribulation lightning missed its target by a few centimeters and landed on the back of its head. Who asked its head to be so big? When it understood this point, the demonic beast forcibly endured the intense pain and silently told itself, "I don't feel pain. I don't feel pain. I can take it. I can take it." It was really able to withstand it. Not only did it feel comforted, but even if it was caught off guard, it would only cause a big hole to appear on the back of its head after being hit by the lightning. The target of the tribulation lightning wasn't it. Even if it was a perfect sky tribulation, the sky tribulation of the 9 clans, there was still a limit. At least, it couldn't reach the level of this demonic beast's own tribulation. Even if the destructive power was still intense, it couldn't harm its life. In other words, it just caused a lot of pain. But, in the end, it inexplicably suffered such a big hole in its head. It was so big that it could almost plant a tree in it. Saying that it was very painful was already an understatement. But the demonic beast insisted on not moving, and didn't cry out. What if it really became the target of the tribulation lightning? The demonic beast obediently lay on the ground, feeling wronged and tearing up. This was really unlucky to the extreme. I was more obedient than a rock, but I still had to suffer a tribulation lightning. What was more pitiful was that I could only silently endure it. Not to mention moaning or crying out. I didn't even dare to heal myself. Just as it was feeling wronged, it suddenly heard a loud boom. The second tribulation lightning that was deflected came unexpectedly and smashed down, landing on the previous big hole with a thunderous sound. This time, it wasn't just an ordinary pain. The monstrous beast's entire body began to tremble. Several of its claws dug into the ground, digging out several other large pits. Its huge head was instantly filled with air. The big hole at the back of its head was directly connected to the front of its mouth. From front to back, the tyrannical tribulation lightning that was twice as strong as before even smashed a hole in the demonic beast's inner core. Streams of red and white brain matter, mixed with the golden energy of the inner core, flowed down like drooling. Clumps after clumps landed on the tattered body of the man on the ground, in his mouth, and in his wounds that in a moment. The demonic beast's brain matter was like a flash flood, completely enveloping the tattered body, drowning it. This wasn't enough. It wrapped up layer after layer, burying layer after layer. The demonic beast that suddenly suffered a heavy blow was so wrong that tears fell down. Since ancient times, was there any demon that was more wrong than me? I only asked one question. Is there any more? Was there any demon that was more wrong than me? Heavenly tribulation. Can you still be reasonable? But I can't move, can't cry out, can't tremble, can't do anything. I don't even dare to heal myself. Its sorrowful eyes stared at its own brain matter and inner core that was continuously losing energy, sticking to the tattered body of the two-legged beast on the ground. Red light flickered. True essence flickered bit by bit. It merged into the body. Whoa. Hurry up and go through the tribulation and leave. As long as you leave early, I can still take back a little of the inner core's energy. As for the brain matter, it's fine if it's eaten. That's all external matter. It can be repaired. But the falling brain matter quickly condensed into a gelatinous jelly-like object or a huge silkworm cocoon. In short, the red light flickered continuously and disappeared. My energy, the inner core that I cultivated for hundreds of thousands of years. My brain matter. Looking at the jelly that had completely condensed, the demonic beast's heart was filled with sorrow. It couldn't bear it anymore, but it still had to bear it. Since ancient times, how many demonic beasts have watched their inner cores being swallowed by others, not daring to move, not daring to stop, and only watching blankly? Since ancient times, how many demonic beasts have watched their brains being eaten like tofu pudding? It's said that the heavenly Tao is fair and just, but how do I show it? I've really set a precedent in the demonic beast world. I've embarrassed the demonic beasts. No, I've embarrassed the demonic beasts. Woo-woo. How can I still be called the demonic beast of misfortune? How can I still be called the most annoying demon in the world? Woo-woo. I should have resisted. I should have exploded. I should have rushed out and wreaked havoc in the human world to vent my anger. It's just the heavenly Tao tribulation lightning of the sky soar realm. It's a piece of cake. Why didn't I resist? Sigh. Forget it. It's already like this. How bad can it get? The demonic beast consoled itself. After all, the tribulation lightning wasn't really targeting me. It was just a mistake by the heavenly tribulation. Those who don't know can't be blamed. It's just a misunderstanding. Forget it. I'll just take it that the heavenly Tao owes me a favor. Who knows? I might be able to avoid being struck by 2 lightning bolts in the future. This is a gift from the heavenly Tao to me. It's just a small loss, and it'll be repaired in a few hundred, a few thousand, or even a few tens of thousands of years. Misfortune is a blessing in disguise. When things reach an extreme, they will move in the opposite direction. This is the true karmic feedback. This is actually a source of fortune, an opportunity. I should be happy. Yes, I should be happy. But why can't I be happy? Finally, the heavenly tribulation was over. The demonic beast was sure that the heavenly tribulation was over and the heavenly might had disappeared. However, it still waited for a while before daring to move. After all, the heavenly tribulation today didn't seem very reliable. What if it came back and found it after it left? It had already lived for hundreds of thousands of years. It couldn't be ruined by this. After another half an hour, it finally began to breathe a sigh of relief. It wailed in pain. It hurts so much. Fuck me. Heavenly tribulation, come again if you have the guts. I'll strike you alive. Fuck, it really hurts. As it vented, it hurriedly circulated its demonic energy to heal its injuries. This is too much of a bully. This is too. There's simply no bottom line, no integrity, no persistence. Heavenly tribulation, where's your integrity? In the future, I'll definitely get it back from you. In the future, you must remember to strike me twice more today. I beg you. After a long, long time, the wound on the demonic beast's head healed. However, it couldn't help but gasp for breath weakly. Then it raised its head and focused its gaze, looking at the huge cocoon beside its mouth. That a cocoon formed from its own brain, that its gaze was complicated. In the end, it sighed bitterly. Forget it. Even if it's a mistake, it's already left my mark. Even if I swallow it again, the benefits I can get back are also very limited. I'll only be reduced to a pile of shit and can't be turned back into brain matter. Sigh. I'll just take it as forming a good karma. Even though it had already made up its mind, that thick unwillingness still filled its heart and didn't go away for a long time. I feel wronged. Chapter 1193. Zhuo Xiaoduo's recovery process was faster than Zhuo Changlu's expectations. In the middle of the night, his body had completely recovered, and his true essence continued to grow bit by bit. The Taoist rhyme in his body was still circulating, and he had not woken up yet that Wu Yuding suddenly remembered something. She pried open the kid's mouth and took out the heaven-mending stone. You shouldn't waste it like this. I'm afraid this stone can only be used a few more times. Wu Yuding sighed as she looked at the stone that was already a little gray. She already knew about the existence of this spirit stone. She also saw Xiaoduo stuffing the stone into his mouth at the last moment during the heavenly tribulation. Obviously, he used the huge hidden vitality of the stone to heal his injuries and extend his life. Now, Zhuo Xiaoduo was able to recover much faster than Zhuo Changlu expected, mostly because of the spirit stone's attribute. However, this consumption was a waste, because without this stone, the power of the heavenly Tao would naturally recover. This was not a matter of life and death. It was just a matter of time. However, the consumption of the spirit stone was difficult to make up for. Wu Yuding regretted the loss of the spirit stone. She placed it next to Zhuo Xiaoduo's pillow and sat on the edge of the bed. She stared at her son's sleeping face. No matter how she looked at it, it was cute. This tender. It was just like when he was just born. His red little mouth even moved when he was dreaming. So cute that how good would it be if he was always this cute? Unfortunately, as soon as this brat opened his eyes, he would transform into a lawless, shameless, and slippery person. He caused trouble every day and could be called a troublemaker. When he was caught, he would act cute and play dumb to get away with it. Sigh. I really don't know which life I owed you. Wu Yuding couldn't help but poke Zhuo Xiaoduo's forehead and scold him lovingly. Outside, Zhuo Changlu and Lei Changtian were already drinking. Zhuo Changlu sat high up on the sofa, while Lei Changtian moved a small stool and sat opposite him. Both of them drank happily. After all, they were really happy. They enjoyed themselves and forgot about their worries. They all felt that they were witnessing history and felt that their genes were really amazing. Bai Yunduo, the supervisor, was now playing the role of a maid. Whenever a cup was empty, she would fill it up. She was speechless from beginning to end, but she still tried her best to smile gently. Boss, back then, when we were in Black Wind Canyon. Second brother, it's not that I want to criticize you. Boss is right. Let's go. Second brother, you said back then that. Is there such a thing? During Wang Feihong's battle back then, if you hadn't recklessly courted your own death and fought with Lai Hua to the point where both sides were heavily injured and almost died, the one who replaced Wang Feihong on the stage would have been you. If you ask me, it would have been better if I'd done it. Wang Feihong's strength was much weaker than mine at that time. If I had done it, I might have been lucky enough not to die. Maybe none of this would have happened now. Besides, I didn't look for my own death. It was something that happened to me. I was also helpless. This is all fate. Who would have thought that Lai Hua and his wife would divorce and vent their anger on you? Speaking of which, what did you do? Why didn't Lai Hua look for someone else but you? I didn't do anything. If you didn't do anything, why did Lai Hua look for you? It's been so many years. Why don't you talk about it now? It's really nothing. You also said that it's a long time ago. Why bring it up? It's really nothing? Say it again. Cough, cough. Actually, Lai Hua's wife ran out to fight with Lai Hua and coincidentally met me. She took the initiative to provoke me. How could I let her go? So, the two of us started to fight. When we were fighting, I casually used the 1,000-hand sky devil claw. That's my specialty, so it's understandable that I used it. Lei Zhangtian coughed. Zhuo Zhonglu's eyes widened. Then he covered his face and said, I know. You tore her clothes with your special skill? Cough, cough. Yes. Actually, I didn't really tear her clothes. I just tore a piece of her skirt. Just a piece. Revealing half of her butt. But it was just an inch. Lai Hu went to look for her at that time and saw this scene. He couldn't stand it at that time. In the end, Lai Hu's psychological endurance was too weak. How could it be? I understand. Zhuo Changlu looked up and sighed. I was wondering why things were so strange back then. So that's why. So this was the truth. At that time, I had already explained everything to Raging Inferno. I said that even though I tore your wife's skirt, I really didn't do anything. The most important thing was that when you came over, we were still fighting. It's not like you caught me in bed. Why are you in such a hurry? But Lai Hu didn't listen. His eyes turned red. Lei Changtian said angrily. He couldn't reason with the Wu people. After that, we fought. How could I be afraid of him? So Zhonglu downed a cup of wine and let out a long sigh. This matter, it's not just the shaman tribe. Any man in the world who tried to reason with her at that time was bound to fail. Then, Wang Feihong had to fight. At that time, Lai Hu had been carried back by his wife. I was also unconscious. I didn't wake up until half a month after you guys finished fighting. This guy was too cruel. How could it be? Lei Zhangtian also felt regret for the past, regretting his past actions. If he had been there at that time, the situation would have been greatly improved. But in the end, such a thing happened. Who could he reason with? Who would have thought that the raging fire witch couple would be at odds with each other at that time, and he would be dragged into this mess? It was simply an unexpected disaster. Who would have thought that Lai Hu would come at such a coincidence? I just tore his wife's skirt, and he arrived. If it weren't for the UMNO Alliance guys who didn't have enough brains, except when they were fighting, I would have suspected that they were playing tricks on me and deliberately preventing me from going to the battle. Lei Changtian was extremely depressed. Zhuo Zhonglu was speechless. Then he scolded. Any normal couple wouldn't use this to play a badger game with you. What was in your brain? How could you have such a brain circuit? After 3 jars of wine in a row, the two talked about the past and became more and more emotional. I still remember that time I brought Raindrop into the team. At that time, we were really young and frivolous. At that time, I pointed to you and introduced you. That was your Uncle Zhua. Lei Changtian drank too much. Stop. Zhuo Changlu reached out and stopped him. Why are you talking about the past? It's my fault. I'll punish myself with a jar. Just when they were drinking the most happily, Wu Yuding came out of the room and frowned. Drinking again? It's just a small drink. Lei Changtian said, Look, we just drank 1 jar. The second jar has just been opened, and it's still full. The 20 or so jars that had been emptied earlier had already been collected by 2 people who were familiar with the business. As habitual offenders, they definitely cleaned it up flawlessly. At the very least, they would rather let people know than see it, leaving room for their own justification. I don't believe the 2 of you. Wu Yuding snorted. As smart as she was, she naturally did not believe the nonsense of the 2 people in front of her. But obviously, she did not want to pursue the matter. She waved to Zhuo Changlu. Come in. I have something to tell you. Let my father drink first. You can come in later. Tonight, you 2 are not restricted from drinking. Not restricted? How can there be no restrictions? Zhuo Zhonglu and Lei Zhangtian's eyes lit up. Of course, you can drink as much as you want. Okay. Zhuo Changlu stood up and went into the room with Wu Yuding. Hearing that there was no restriction on drinking, Lei Changtian immediately gained unprecedented courage. He said to Bai Yinduo, Why are you so insensible? After drinking for so long, I didn't see you make any side dishes. Hurry up and prepare. Bai Yinduo rolled her eyes and hurried off. She knew the demon ancestor's way of doing things, so she did not take it to heart. In the room, Wu Yuding pulled Zhuo Changlu in, closed the door, and set up a soundproof enchantment. She said, I've been looking for puppies for a long time. I wanted to tell you something. Do you still remember how you found Yin Cat? Zhuo Zhonglu was puzzled. How come I was the one who picked up Nyan Nyan Cat? Didn't we pick it up together? Back then, we transformed into the mortal world and walked around leisurely, looking at mountains and rivers. We wanted to see the beauty of the world from an ordinary person's point of view. Did we find Nyan Cat when we were wandering around the mountains near King Chi's tomb? Weren't you the one who saw it first? There were so many chicken feathers in a pile of withered branches. You went over and rummaged through it and found a small meat egg. Zhui Changlu said, I say, why are you asking me this at this time? You're making me confused, okay? Zhui Changlu was a little dissatisfied. It delayed the drinking. Wu Yuding thought for a while and said, was the situation not like this at that time? Let me ask you, do you still remember what you said at that time? Yes, I remember. At that time, I said that this family must be too poor to even prepare swaddling clothes for the child, Zhui Changlu said. Yes, that's what I said. Wu Yuding's brows suddenly relaxed. And then when I checked, the baby girl's bloodline and so on were all normal human. She wasn't the remains of a demon beast, nor was she the reincarnation of an immortal. Wait a minute. Even if you and I were in the state of transforming into the mortal world at that time and didn't bring our cultivation with us, but we still had our foresight and experience. So what's the problem? Zhui Zhonglu was full of confidence when he said these words. Wu Yuding nodded slowly. Indeed, it would be strange if a baby girl could hide from the eyes of the husband and wife. Then do you remember that you said there were feathers on the baby girl's butt? Wu Yuding said, I remember there were 2 feathers. Zhui Changlu did not know whether to laugh or cry. Didn't they stick to her butt? 2 feathers stuck to her soft butt. I pulled them off with my hand, okay? Wu Yuding nodded. Yes. What's wrong with you today? Why are you bringing up the past for no reason? Did something happen? Zhui Changlu asked. Something did happen. I didn't have time to tell you. It was when Duodwa's last thunder tribulation. A part of the heavenly tribulation thunder split off and struck little Nyener, Wu Yuding said. There is actually such a thing? Is little Nyener okay? Zhui Changlu was stunned and asked hurriedly. Then, he realized that he had asked a silly question. He had seen Zhui Xiaoyan before, and she was perfectly fine. Well, her hair was a little messy, not as neat as it usually was. The power of that thunder tribulation thunder was not lethal. The main purpose was to pass on an inheritance to little Nyener. The inheritance of the Phoenix clan, Wu Yuding said. How could that be? Zhui Changlu was really shocked this time. That was the heavenly tribulation. The heavenly tribulation could not be selfish. If the heavenly tribulation was selfish, the heavenly tribulation thunder would not exist. How could it secretly pass on an inheritance to Zhui Xiaoyan at such a time? This change had really overturned Zhui Changlu's current understanding. It's absolutely true. Wu Yuding said with certainty. Little Nyener has begun to cultivate that inheritance. If she succeeds, our son will have to wait a long time to get married. The wedding night will be even more distant, unless Nyener goes easy. There's no need to think about that. Nyan Nyan will definitely throw the game. Zhui Changlu shook his head and said, the inheritance of the heavenly tribulation. This. Ting-er, do you believe in such a thing? Bullshit. Of course I don't believe it. But the truth has already happened, and it happened to our Mississippi. What's the use of believing it or not? Wu Yuding rolled her eyes. I will. Zhui Changlu frowned and racked his brains. How could such a thing happen? He lowered his head and thought for a long time before saying, do you think there's another possibility? That inheritance has long been sealed in the depths of Xiaoyan's memory. That lightning tribulation was actually just removing the seal for her? Wu Yuding said in horror, That's not impossible. No, it's still not right. Zhui Changlu said, when we picked up little Nyener, we carefully checked her body. There was absolutely no seal on her body. She was just an ordinary human baby girl. At least in our opinion, that's what she looked like. Yes, we confirmed it again and again. Now that I think about it, such a cute child without any swaddling clothes and only a few feathers. Later on, 99 astral souls, the most talented. When she grew up, naturally, the phoenix vein followed her. You mean, why didn't others pick her up? but we picked her up. Maybe it's not because she was too lucky. Maybe it's because we were too lucky? Or maybe it's because of our luck? Wu Yuding looked at Zhuo Changlu with probing eyes. Yes, both the husband and wife frowned. Although they didn't say it out loud, it was clear that the two of them were suspecting the same thing. That was, Zhuo Xiaoyan was a descendant of the ancient Phoenix clan. But as the possibilities were denied one by one, it made this matter even more confusing. If Niner is really a descendant of the ancient Phoenix clan, how could she be a human baby when she was born? Zhuo Changlu's tone was full of doubts. I can't guess this. And if this really involves the inheritance of the ancient Phoenix clan, then unless it's a trap set up by a saint, it's impossible to hide it from us, let alone for so long. But would a saint set up such a trap? Besides, the ancient Phoenix clan doesn't seem to have a saint first-rate supreme being, right? The more you say, the more I can't figure it out. This feeling is getting thicker and thicker. Zhuo Changlu thought for a long time and smiled calmly. Besides, whether it's true or not, even if it's a trap set up by a saint, even if it's really the inheritance of the ancient Phoenix clan, she's still our precious daughter, our precious treasure. Even if the heavenly Tao were to jump out, it wouldn't be able to deny it. Wu Yuding finally smiled and said, That's right. Her origin is not important. What does her origin have to do with us? That's right, don't worry. Zhuo Changlu smiled and patted Wu Yuding's shoulder. Leave everything to me. No one can take our daughter away from us. Xiao Duo's wife. No one can take her away. Wu Yuding also put down her worries and said, Of course. After listening to Zhuo Changlu's words, Wu Yuding also felt enlightened. Yes, no matter what her identity was, Zhuo Xiaoyan was now her daughter and her daughter-in-law. No matter what happened in the future, this was a fact that could not be changed. Since that was the case, what was there to doubt, guess, and fear? I understand. Then I'll go out and drink. I haven't had a chance to get drunk in a long time. You two should drink less. Sigh, with our cultivation and alcohol tolerance, it's hard to get drunk. Everyone knows this. Haha, you won't get drunk, but you'll still spew out a stench from your pores. You don't mind, but I do. If his grandfather stinks, then so be it. No one cares anyway. If you stink, then stay far away from me. Don't blame me for telling you first. In the wee hours of the morning, Zhuo Xiaoduo woke up slowly. As soon as he opened his eyes, he felt as light as a feather, as if he was about to fly. Before he opened his eyes, he was already shouting, Nian Mao, I'm flying. Let's see where you can run to now. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw Wu Yuding's half-smiling face. Doggy, you've really grown up. You only remember your wife and forgot about your mother. How could that be? So Xiaoduo put on a fawning smile. Mom, I keep dreaming about you. This wasn't a lie. In this night's illusion, the most tragic scene was this family. For his parents and Zhuo Xiaoyan, Zhuo Xiaoduo probably died more than 10,000 times in this night. Now that he had woken up, he felt pain all over his body, especially his heart and head. His head had been smashed countless times in one night, and his heart had been pierced through countless times. All the bones in his body had been disassembled, but now that he thought about it, he still had lingering fears. Now that he woke up and saw his mother's smiling face, Zhuo Xiaoduo was very satisfied. It was great. It was great to be alive. Ha ha ha. Where's my dad and Yin Mao? Zhuo Xiaoduo threw off the blanket and ran out. Stop! Wu Yuding shouted. Brat, you're still naked. Oh. Zhuo Xiaoduo hurriedly went back into the blanket naked and put on his pants under the blanket. You're actually shy in front of your mother. Wu Yuding said with disdain. Since you were young, I didn't even want to look at her naked, but weren't you and your sister raised by your mother's feces and urine? Ugh, Mom. Can you change that idiom of yours? It's too damaging to your graceful and elegant demeanor. It'll make people misunderstand our food. So Xiaoduo chuckled under the blanket. He put on his pants, stood up, put on his coat, and looked at himself in the mirror. He sighed and said, Every time I become bald, I become stronger. If you want to become stronger, you have to go bald first. There's no cure for this. Wu Yuding laughed. So Xiaoduo wasn't wrong at all. Due to his cultivation method, Every time he broke through, he would go bald. Not even a blade of grass would grow on his body, and not a single strand of hair would be left. After becoming bald, he really did become stronger. So strong that it was unimaginable. You're flying. You've completely transcended mortality. How do you feel? Wu Yuding asked. Not much. I just feel like beating up Nian Mao is like playing with me now, so Xiao Duo said smugly. Huh. Wu Yuding chuckled, but did not say anything. With her eyesight, she could naturally see that Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaonian's strength were about the same. Zhou Xiaonian had broken through to the Sky Soul realm first, and her cultivation was about to reach the intermediate stage of the Sky Soul realm, but she was not there yet. Zhou Xiaoduo, on the other hand, was at the beginner stage of the Sky Soul realm. He had just broken through and had not had the time to accumulate his foundation, so his foundation was not solid yet. However, the difference between the two's strength was negligible. Although the difference in strength between beginner and intermediate stage of the Sky Soul realm was like heaven and earth, Zhou Xiaoduo suppressed his cultivation level more than Zhou Xiaonian. For some cultivation levels, he suppressed his cultivation level more than Zhou Xiaonian. For some cultivation levels, he suppressed his cultivation level several times more. With this accumulation, the gap between the two was narrowing bit by bit. In this way, the actual gap between them was not much. If they were to fight to the death, Zhou Xiaoduo's strength might even be above Zhou Xiaonian's. If they were to fight to the death, the result would be Zhou Xiaonian dying, while Zhou Xiaoduo would at most suffer some internal injuries. It would not be life-threatening. Wu Yuding was well aware of this point. But if it was just a spar between the two of them, that if the result was reversed, Zhou Xiaoduo would definitely be defeated without a doubt. He would definitely not be able to defeat Zhou Xiaonian. This was also a matter without any suspense. Zhou Xiaoduo knew how to use blades, spears, swords, halberds, axes, hooks, and forks. He was also proficient in using hidden weapons. However, his main focus was his hammer. If he were to fight Zhou Xiaonian, Zhou Xiaoduo's hammer would be a burden instead. He did not dare to use it, nor was he willing to use it. This included his hidden weapons. When he used the hexagram, it would definitely result in death. His injuries were not healed yet, so he did not dare to use it. As for his other hidden weapons, they would not even tickle Zhou Xiaonian if they hit her. There was also his Flaming Sun Sutra, elemental fire technique, and Zhu Rong's primordial fire. He could not use any of them, nor did he dare to use them. What if he really burned Zhou Xiaonian's hair? There was no need to burn it. Even if it was just a burn, would he still be able to live? Would he still want to recover? Chapter 1194. On a deeper level, Zhou Xiaoduo had so many powerful weapons. Who would dare to use them? The God-slaying spear was so powerful. Who would dare to use it? The black and white gourd boosted their combat prowess by a large margin. Without the 9-9 cat hammer, the two of them were useless. The three-legged golden crow was ignored. The reason was the same. What else did Zhou Xiaoduo have? The spirit cat sword. However, when it came to swords, Zhou Xiaonian had always been very simple-minded. She only had one sword. Whether it was sparring or a battle to the death, she only had one sword. She had a perfect grasp of the situation and would never make any mistakes. In this aspect alone, Zhou Xiaoduo was no match for her. Zhou Xiaoduo wanted to beat Zhou Xiaonian with just the nimble cat sword when he didn't dare to use so many of his trump cards. That was simply a pipe dream. Even if Zhou Xiaoduo maintained this level of suppression until he reached the Dao integration stage, he wouldn't dare to say that he could defeat the current Zhou Xiaonian, let alone the fact that he was only at the ascension stage. Wu Yuding could only sigh in her heart as she looked at the eager Zhou Xiaoduo. Son, you're thinking too much. If you can really defeat her and put it into action, you won't even be able to kiss her, let alone consummate the marriage. All right, should I tell Nian, that she has received a new inheritance from the Phoenix tribe and is about to become more powerful? Forget it. I don't want to discourage him too much. I still want to hold a grandson. I support you. Wu Yuding encouraged her son and said, Go beat her up. I don't believe that after being bullied by her for so long, you can't beat a girl even if you're so strong. Zhou Xiaoduo was in high spirits. He strode out of the room with his head held high. He was going to fly. Not only did he have to beat up Yin Yin, but he also had to deal with the problem of sex. All of these things had to be solved. Wu Yuding followed him out the door. The battle between a cat and a dog of the Ascension stage was a must-watch. Especially after this kid beat up Nian Mao. He had to watch the show. When the Tower of Emptiness reopened, Li Chenglong and the others appeared in the courtyard. Before they could say anything, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. Tribulation clouds flew over. In an instant, the entire sky of Shangjing was filled with tribulation clouds. The power of heaven and earth overflowed. Zhuo Changlu and the others instantly understood and stomped their feet. This is bad. This time it was really bad. Previously, he had been so focused on Zui Xiaoduo's tribulation that he did not realize that these little fellows were also on the verge of breaking through. Although it had only been a little more than a night in the space exterminating pagoda. For these little guys, they had been cultivating in Zui Xiaoduo's space exterminating pagoda for 2 to 3 months. The ones he saw last night were still a bunch of little fellows at the peak of Origin Profound. The ones that rushed out this morning were shockingly a bunch of ascendant fairies, and a bunch of ascendant fairies who had not been baptized by the tribulation. These little fellows were different from Zhuo Xiaoyan. Zhuo Xiaoyan had broken through directly and did not experience the tribulation because Zhuo Xiaoduo had taken the tribulation for her. However, these little fellows did not have anyone to take the tribulation for them. Zhuo Zhonglu, Lei Zhangtian, and the other peerless experts couldn't help but be dumbfounded at this moment. There was no time to explain. At this moment, the tribulation eye in the sky had already formed, and the first tribulation lightning was about to strike. Zhuo Changlu cursed inwardly. With a wave of his sleeve, he had already swept up the 12 people and rushed toward the broken soul cliff before the tribulation lightning struck. Along the way, Zhuo Changlu did not slack at all. He directly used his super cultivation and profound words to instill everything into the 12 little fellows' minds. Then, he hurriedly told them to prepare their most powerful defenses and their best weapons. Then, he gave them a portion of the many precious treasures he had accumulated, especially those that could take effect immediately and heal quickly. Calm down. You must calm down. Your cultivation is far superior to ordinary ascendant fairies. A ascendant heavenly tribulation is nothing to you. By the time Zhuo Changlu put them down, the first tribulation lightning had already struck. At this moment, Zhuo Changlu did not have the time to leave the area covered by the tribulation clouds. The first tribulation lightning directly smashed down on Zhuo Changlu's head, clearly intending to punish him. If Zhuo Changlu did not deal with it properly, he would be considered a part of this tribulation lightning. Then, whether Zhuo Changlu would live or die was still uncertain. However, Li Chenglong and the other 12 people would definitely die without a doubt. Great soul shift, Zhuo Changlu shouted. Then he focused all his attention on the tribulation eye in the sky. In order to avoid suffering, I specially sent these 12 people here to undergo the tribulation. I hope that the heavenly Tao will be lenient with this act of kindness. Then, Zhuo Changlu himself had already moved hundreds of miles away. The Great Soul Shift was an advanced technique of the Tianyuan escape technique. When executed by Zhuo Changlu, its effect was at least 100 times better than that of Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaoyan. Even the heavenly tribulation lightning could not catch up to him. Boom, boom, boomed. The heavenly Tao tribulation thunder chased after Zhuo Zhonglu relentlessly for a few more times, directly driving him out of the range of the heavenly tribulation. After that, it performed the greater soul shift 3 times in a row before it finally gave up. Then Li Chenglong and the others, who had just realized what was going on, saw the densely packed tribulation eyes in the sky. Then, they heard a thunderclap and many tribulation lightning bolts struck down at the same time. Mommy, this scene was simply too shocking. Li Chenglong and the others were mostly from small places. The rest of them did not have a Sky Soar Realm cultivator in their family. Therefore, they knew very little about the so-called extraordinary tribulation lightning of Skysoar realm cultivators. Moreover, their progress was too fast. First, they obtained the Sacred Heart cleansing fruit and reached the peak of the profound returning realm. Then, Zwishaoduo generously lent them the spatial annihilation pagoda for their cultivation. However, this caused them to miss a deeper understanding of the truth of the tribulation lightning of Skysoar realm cultivators. Previously, Xiaoyan's breakthrough to the Skysoar realm gave them a relatively false understanding, which led them to think that the spatial annihilation pagoda could be immune to the tribulation lightning. However, Xiaoduo's tribulation lightning was far more powerful than that of ordinary Skysoar realm cultivators. Zhuo Chonglu and Wu Yuding were afraid that they would develop an inner demon while observing Zhuo Xiaoduo's tribulation lightning, which would make it difficult for them to make any further progress. Therefore, they directly forbade them from observing Zhuo Xiaoduo's tribulation. All of this caused the current awkwardness. Li Chenglong and the others had seen such a shocking scene before. Although they cried out in surprise, they did not slack off and did their best to deal with the tribulation lightning. However, the tribulation lightning was still the main performer in this turmoil. It bombarded wildly and caused a great commotion that boom, 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 that the earth shook and the mountains shook. It was deafening. Wu Yuding, Lei Changtian, Bai Yunduo, Zwishaoduo, and Zwishaoyan also rushed to the left side to protect them. However, Zhuo Zhonglu and the other three almighties had black lines running down their foreheads. They had really neglected this matter. They had been so focused on Zhuo Xiaoduo's tribulation that they could not afford to be distracted by other things. This had led to the current awkward situation. They could not shirk this responsibility, no matter how hard they tried. Out at the bottom of the death cliff, that demonic beast consumed a large amount of essence energy to heal its injuries. But its injuries had just recovered by more than half when its entire body suddenly stiffened. A familiar yet terrifying feeling arose spontaneously, and its two large eyeballs were instantly filled with tears. Fuck, it's happening again. It's happening again. And this time it's happening in a group? This is the first time I've heard of people going through tribulation in groups. Do you think you're not dying fast enough? But can't you choose another place to reserve? Why am I the only one who can cause trouble? Where is your conscience? Where is the heavenly Tao? Where is the heavenly Tao? However, it was a foregone conclusion that this place would become a land of trouble. The demonic beasts, who knew how powerful they were, immediately moved. They picked up the big cocoon and drilled down for a full 300 miles. And why is the heartbeat in the big cocoon getting louder and louder? It seems to be aware of the thunder tribulation outside and is very interested in it. Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaoyan were at the periphery, stretching their necks to look at the center point. Then Zhuo Xiaoduo saw Zhuo Xiaoyan take out her cell phone with familiarity. This operation. There's actually such an operation. Zhuo Xiaoduo's eyes widened. He was excited to see this and was eager to give it a try. However, the next moment, Zhuo Xiaoyan put away her cell phone and said calmly, "There's nothing interesting about this wave. It's not worth recording." Nothing interesting? Not worth recording? Look at how knowledgeable you are. This is a tribulation. You say there's nothing interesting about such a big scene, and it's not worth recording. Isn't that a bit too much? Then what's worth recording? Zhuo Xiaoduo suddenly had an ominous premonition in his heart. Looking at Li Chenglong and the others who were struggling under the thunder tribulation, Zhuo Xiaoduo sighed. Swollen. How many evil things have these people done? The thunder tribulation is chasing after them. TSK. As their boss, I'm sincerely ashamed of their actions. I'm ashamed to be associated with them. Wu Yuding and Zhuo Xiaoyan both turned to look at him, their eyes shining with curiosity. This little dog really dares to say something like that. It seems like you don't remember that you were struck by lightning just now, and it was much more powerful than this. How could he have a nerve to say such righteous and upright words? How can a person be so shameless? However, on second thought, This was just what Xiaoduo's habitual attitude. The mother and daughter had long been used to it, so they were not surprised. It was just a normal performance. What was there to complain about? However, when the fourth thunder tribulation struck, Zhuo Changlu, who had been paying attention to the thunder tribulation, couldn't help but narrow his eyes under the thick clouds. The thunder tribulation continued to erupt and descend. The starlight shone down and gradually converged to form a beam of light. Although the beam of light wasn't shining in the direction of the heavenly tribulation, but in another direction, it shouldn't be something that was out of his imagination. At this critical juncture, a total of 12 Skyser cultivators were undergoing the thunder tribulation together. This was a huge matter. Even if there were any unforeseen circumstances, it should be delayed or made way. How could there be starlight shining down? Could it be that there was an unforeseen event that was comparable to or even greater than 12 sky soars undergoing the thunder tribulation together? With a thought, Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding immediately exchanged their positions as guardians. Then, he released a doppelganger that flashed in the direction of Shangjing City. Duo. Zhuo Changlu continued to resist the evil karma that was surging in all directions, shattering them one by one. At the same time, he said in a deep voice, "Use the aura gazing technique to observe the starlight in the sky. See if there's anything strange." Although Zhuo Changlu's cultivation was exceedingly high, he had his own specialization. He only knew a little about the aura gazing technique. If it was related to himself or his blood relatives, he could use his own aura to sense it. However, now that there was a sudden change, it was not something he could understand. After being reminded, Zhuo Xiaoduo looked up at the sky. Only then did he realize that there was starlight shining down from above the thick clouds, and it had already formed into a considerable number. 9 beams of starlight, like 9 sharp arrows piercing through the clouds, shot straight to the southeast, which was as far as the eye could see. Xiaoduo concentrated on circulating his aura and used the aura gazing technique. When he looked as far as the eye could see, his heart immediately trembled. This is demonic aura, Xiaoduo murmured. Dad, from the looks of it, the Big Dipper stars are gathering. The Star Lords are connecting with the Star Lords' constellations to do something. It's very likely that a battle is about to happen. Zhuo Changlu's pupil shrank. Are you sure? I'm sure, Zhuo Xiaoduo said. The constellations in the sky have already formed a killing array. Endless demonic aura is surging. I'm afraid that the other party has been preparing for this for a long time. Oh no, it's starting to pour out now. Oh no. Zhuo Changlu turned his head to look at the field with a solemn expression. Li Chenglong and the other juniors were only halfway through their heavenly tribulations. They had already missed the best opportunity. Moreover, because the 12 of them were working together to pass the heavenly tribulations, the scale and power of the heavenly tribulations had increased a lot. If he left at this moment, there would definitely be a gap in the stable defense line formed by the 4 sides. The turbulent evil thoughts would pour in, and the group of children would be invaded by the inner demons. At least 3 or 4 of them would die under the heavenly tribulations. This timing is really bad. I can't advance or retreat. If the current situation was set up by someone with intentions for this moment, then I have to reevaluate. The level of intelligence of the other party, the control of the mind, is really shocking and horrifying. Zhuo Changlu was speechless. Fortunately, he had reacted to the situation just now and sent a clone to look for Dongfang Xingyang. Therefore, he hurriedly sent a message over. Let Yu Dongtian patrol the southeast. Although this was what he said and the arrangements were made, Zhuo Changlu knew in his heart that no matter if it was Yu Dongtian or Dongfang Xingyang, by the time they arrived, it would be too late. The other party's arrangements would have been completed and their goal would have been achieved. The combination of the Big Dipper, the killing array set up by the Celestial Star Lord, and the use of the power of the stars to kill the strong enemies. A moment was enough. However, they chose to take action today. What a good plan. The other party might also have a powerful person manipulating the situation. Zhuo Changlu's expression was heavy. He knew that today he had lost in Shangjing City. When Zhuchanglu's clone arrived, Yu Dongtian was already standing in Dongfang Xingyang's house. Something big has happened. Dongfang Xingyang. It's in the southeast direction on the way to Phoenix City. Be careful of the tall mountains and dense forests along the way. Yu Dongtian did not say anything and immediately tore the space apart. He hoped that it was not too late to mend the pen after the sheep were lost. Zhuchanglu glanced and said, "You and Zhengxian go and take a look too. It's always good to have more helpers." Yes, the two of them did not hesitate and disappeared in a flash. In the sky, the beam of light had begun to shrink and was about to disappear. It was obvious that the other party's plan had come to an end. However, above the clouds, the Big Dipper was still shining brightly. The demonic aura was still thick and heavy. As it flickered, it seemed to be summoning something. With the ancestral land as the foundation, gather the Star Battle Alliance. Exhale the chi of heaven and earth, draw back the heavens. A strange language that no one in the mortal world could understand, and a mysterious summoning that no one could hear. Spread far and wide, shaking in the starry sky, and in the distant starry sky, a demonic shadow that covered the sky suddenly appeared. The god-slaying spear circled back and forth. Over there, Yu Dongtian's body suddenly landed on the white dragon slope. As far as the eye could see, he could not help but tremble. The entire white dragon slope had been reduced to ruins. The original height had been cut down by more than 700 meters. Within the range of hundreds of miles, there were countless corpses lying on the ground. There was not a single living person. The people from the Yu family were all killed here. There are also the people from the Lu family, the Nian family. Thousands of people, thousands of masters, were all lying on the ground quietly. Limbs and heads were all over the ground. Within the range of hundreds of miles, it was all messed up and destroyed by the power of divine thoughts. Every pit symbolized the tyrannical power of the heavenly star, and it was extremely rampant. None of the Xiozha that had died here had been mediocre, but they had all been slaughtered here. Yu Dongtian quickly circled around. He carefully looked at the traces left behind. Some places were clearly the ambush places of the various families. The traces were obvious and could be seen at a glance. In other words, they were waiting here to ambush someone. But unexpectedly, they were used by the other party. There were no traces of the enemy left at the scene. There were only some scattered pieces of flesh. The aura that they emitted was completely different from the people here. Yu Dongtian made a prompt decision. With a wave of his hands, he had already compressed the air within hundreds of miles. Then, he suddenly spread out his divine sense. He jumped up and flew to a height of thousands of feet. Then, he started to trace according to the aura, but what he saw was only fragments that were cut into pieces by the starlight. He could not find anything valuable at all. No Alliance Star Sect. Yu Dongtian shouted angrily. I will definitely uproot all of you and destroy all of you. Dongfang Xingyang and Nan Zhengxian, who arrived a little later, quickly landed. Right Heavenly King, what's the situation? Big Dipper, killing formation. Yu Dongtian gritted his teeth and said coldly, those people who were waiting to ambush the Wang families, people who were digging the graves in Phoenix City. Those people, I don't know why they were all lured here. The other party set up the Big Dipper killing formation here and killed them all. None of them survived. Nan Zhengxian and Dongfang Xingyang were both shocked. Then, Dongfang Xingyang flew up to the sky to observe the aura. Nan Zhengxian stayed on the ground to search. Yu Dongtian also used his divine sense to search the sky and earth. The three of them worked for a long time, but they still could not find any clues. How could the other party be so well prepared? And they were able to grasp the timing so well. If this was a plan, the person who set this up must be very skilled. Dongfang Xingyang was shocked, and they retreated in such a timely manner. Everything shows that the other party planned before acting. Every step and every detail was within their calculations. Everything was carried out in an orderly manner. But how did the other party predict this? It's normal for a wise man to plan before acting, but a wise man isn't a god. He's just trying to avoid mistakes to the greatest extent. It's hard to avoid mistakes. There were thousands of people here, but not a single fish escaped the net. Isn't this too terrifying? One had to know that the breakthrough of Li Qinglong and the rest was overlooked by even Zhuo and Zhuochanglu, let alone Yudong Tian. It was purely a coincidence. In other words, even if the other party made use of this incident, there was no possibility that there was a mole on their side. That was why Dongfang Xingyang used the word predict. There must be another reason. Lock down Shangjing immediately. Dongfang Xingyang said. All right. Yudong Tian immediately gave the order. He didn't ask why, because he knew that Dongfang Xingyang must have his reasons. The Big Dipper fatal array can't be established easily. The Star Lord in charge of the array will suffer different degrees of recoil every time it's activated. He might be blinded, deaf, unable to recognize smells, or lose all his cultivation. And these signs of sensory abnormalities and temporary loss of cultivation will last for at least 2 to 3 days. This is the only clue left for us at the moment. Whether or not we can find these people within these 2 to 3 days will be the key. I've already given the order. Also, the Wang family must have something to do with this. There's no doubt about it, Yudong Tian said coldly. The Wang family? I don't think so. Dongfang Xingyang smiled bitterly. Of course, the Wang family is related to this, but they couldn't have been the decision-maker. That's for sure. Whoever organized such a scheme wouldn't have let their important pawns know so much. Pawns? Nan Zhengxian felt a bit dizzy. The Wang family has been around for a long time. No matter how degenerate they are, they wouldn't be willing to be a pawn, would they? Or an abandoned pawn. It's not necessarily impossible. Humans have weaknesses as long as they want something. Besides, what the Wang family wants isn't trivial. As long as we target their weaknesses and lure them into the trap, they will naturally be led by the nose until the end. Dongfang Xingyang sneered and said, let's not talk about how they are scheming against them. In fact, if I want to do something according to their mentality, I can easily make them take the bait. Even if I want to make them fall into eternal damnation, and all their families will be wiped out, it is just a plan, a trap. It's too easy to set up a trap for such a family that is proud of its glory but doesn't want to make progress. They only want their ancestors to make contributions so that they can reign supreme for generations to come. Yudong Tian scratched his nose. Why did he feel uncomfortable when he heard that? Was he talking about the Yu family? Well, it shouldn't be, because the Dongfang family had already shown signs of this before the reorganization. Was this empathy? Or was it because they were in the same boat? Shit, now was not the time to care about this. Then what should we do now? Now it's up to whether we can enter this trap and whether we have the ability to intervene. Dongfang Xingyang used the aura observation technique and looked at the fate of heaven and earth. He murmured, this trap actually has a limit. Chapter 1195. There are restrictions? That's right. Powerful beings of the Tao integration stage and above are not allowed to enter. Dongfang Xingyang sighed and said, there are already signs like this. It's still gathering energy. If this is true, I'm afraid it's going to be very troublesome. Why can't powerful beings of the Tao integration stage and above enter? Yudong Tian asked. Then why don't you ask Nan Zhengxian why he's the finance minister of the Shangjing? Dongfang Xingyang snorted and glared at Nan Zhengxian. Nan Zhengxian was enraged. That's the only thing I've hidden from you, and the minister didn't allow me to say it. How can you blame me for that? What is it? Yudong Tian was very interested. Dongfang Xingyang was annoyed. Nan Zhengxian was prepared for the backlash when he set up little Nian'er's soul-cleansing phoenix vein. If it weren't for some other reason, his plan wouldn't have worked. Otherwise, the grass on his grave would be a meter tall by now. Nan Zhengxian's expression darkened. The heavenly Tao formation, this time, is very different from the phoenix vein soul-cleansing technique. If powerful beings of the Tao integration stage and above enter, they will most likely trigger a backlash from the heavenly Tao. Furthermore, the Tao integration stage cultivator's cultivation base, vital energy, life, and soul will be locked onto by the celestial bodies and become a guide. It will guide the continents outside and help them find their way back. Because powerful beings of the Tao integration stage have become one with all Taos, their life soul is already inseparable from the continent beneath their feet and can become a locator stellar source. Do you understand? Dongfang Zhengyang looked up at the sky and said, "This formation is complete." He could clearly see the 9 stars of the Big Dipper and the 6 stars of the Southern Dipper. The lightning tribulations of countless prodigies had triggered the Dragon Vein Soul cleansing technique. The energy of the Dragon Vein Soul cleansing technique was still brewing and was about to erupt. The Dragon Vein Soul cleansing technique in the Shangjing provided the best protection for the heavenly Tao formation. It's complete. Dongfang Zhengyang looked up into the sky and sighed. Under the continuous guidance of the huge starlight, the dragon veins of the earth responded and rose up. Waves of providence soared into the sky and merged with the 15 stars in the sky. That, as for the Wang clan's karmic luck, it was like a whale sucking in water. It was as if the Wang clan's karmic luck was being used to nourish this heavenly Tao formation. Well, it was a little inappropriate to call it nourishment. Nourishment referred to a subtle influence and a little bit of warmth. Now, it should be called a blood transfusion. He was forcefully supplying blood without regard to his own condition. Moreover, he was forcefully supplying blood in an endless manner. It was as if he didn't care, even if he exhausted all of his luck. The Wang clan is completely finished. Their luck has been exhausted. Sigh. Dongfang Zhengyang sighed. The heavenly Tao has already been set. We are destined to be unable to interfere. Yu Dongtian said angrily, even if the heavenly Tao plot is formed, so what if we interfere? Could it be that he would suffer the wrath of heaven? Moreover, even if the heavenly Tao plot has already been set, there will always be a foundation and a variable. We can't damage the foundation and shake it. Can't we destroy it bit by bit and gradually expand from one point to the other to achieve the effect of destruction? The heavenly Tao is derived from the heavenly Tao. It has been set long ago and is destined to be unbreakable. At most, we can use variables to affect the heavenly Tao and cause the heavenly Tao plot to deviate slightly. Dongfang Zhengyang explained, for example, the heavenly Tao plot was set long ago. It was something that was bound to happen. The Stargate sect used the huge starlight as a guide, and the Wang clan's karmic luck as a sacrifice. In their bones, they only slightly deviated the direction of the heavenly Tao plot. However, this slight deviation is already enough to achieve their goal. There is a limit to what we can do now. Even if we forcefully interfere with the current heavenly Tao plot and break the current heavenly Tao plot, the heavenly Tao plot will go around and create a new heavenly Tao plot. Moreover, it will be a heavenly Tao plot that is completely unpreventable. That way, the damage will be even greater. This is also the fundamental embodiment of the heavenly Tao plot. Just like a person's life, he will often walk on a path that those who know him or those who know him will never think of. However, there will be countless reasons and things that will affect him and interfere with him. In the end, he will walk on this path no matter what. To ordinary people, this is called the trajectory of fate. Do you understand now? This is the manifestation of the heavenly Tao plot. For someone like me who knows the aura observation technique, I can vaguely sense the trajectory of the target's heavenly Tao plot. When they encounter difficulties and obstacles, I can give them some pointers. However, the final result is that the target's heavenly Tao plot will be less bumpy and slightly smoother. However, I can't do more than that. Therefore, the heavenly Tao plot cannot be destroyed. Even those who are not fated can only deviate the heavenly Tao plot. They can't completely turn the situation around. Dongfang Zhengyang sighed softly. However, right now, those who have broken the heavenly Tao plot are already in the heavenly Tao plot. They are the key to solving this heavenly Tao plot. Let's see what kind of impact they can have on this heavenly Tao plot. Looking at the heavenly Tao plot, Dongfang Zhengyang took in a deep breath. From what I see, the situation is not too bad. Both sides are not even evenly matched. We have a considerable advantage. However, going too far is as bad as falling short. If we go too far, it will be bad. What do you mean? Yu Dongtian and Nan Zhengxian were a little confused. They heard every single word that Dongfang Zhengyang said. However, they couldn't understand a single word. They only felt that it was very impressive. However, what was so impressive about it? They really didn't know. The two of you are just two idiots. Dongfang Zhengyang looked at the two of them disdainfully. It's so scary to be uneducated. What a waste of my time. Black lines appeared on their foreheads, and they were speechless for a long time. Forget it. Let's inform the big families to come and collect the bodies. Yu Dongtian knew that there was no way he could communicate with Dongfang Zhengyang in terms of heavenly Tao plot. If he continued to communicate, he would only be tortured. Thus, he chose to change the topic. However, he thought to himself, I don't believe that I can't destroy a heavenly Tao plot. I'm in Shangjing right now. If anything happens, I'll rush over immediately. I don't believe that I can't destroy a heavenly Tao plot. Dongfang Zhengyang seemed to have seen through Yu Dongtian's thoughts. He sighed. I don't care if you want to use your strength to go against the heavens. However, I bet that you won't be able to keep them. Do you want to bet? What do you mean? Yu Dongtian was getting more and more dissatisfied. His tone was getting worse. If a heavenly Tao plot can be changed by human strength, then it doesn't deserve to be called a heavenly Tao plot. As the saying goes, the heavenly Tao plot is a joke. Now that the heavenly Tao plot has been set up, why would the heavenly Tao plot leave anyone who can break the rules alive? Dongfang Zhengyang sneered. His voice was filled with disdain. Yu Dongtian and Nan Zhengxian were getting more and more dissatisfied. Although the two of them were talking and laughing as if they were used to seeing death, they were indifferent to the mountains of corpses and seas of blood in front of them. However, in their hearts, they were so angry that they were about to explode. The people who had died in front of them were the backbone of the major families in Shangjing. They were killed by the heavenly Tao plot in one go. How could they not be heartbroken by such a huge loss? However, even if the three of them had the ability to move mountains and fill seas, when it came to moving the stars and changing the stars, they were still helpless against the power of the stars. They had the strength, but were unable to use it. Dongfang Zhengyang shook his head. He had a feeling that something was about to happen. He looked up at the sky and left. You guys wait here. I'm going to find boss. There's something urgent that needs to be dealt with immediately. He flew away. Nan Zhengxian was about to say something, but Yu Dongtian had already disappeared. I'm going to. Nan Zhengxian, you stay here and guard. Nan Zhengxian was tongue-tied for a long time. Fuck you. If the two of them left, he would not be able to leave. The heavenly tribulation had been going on for a long time. It was gradually coming to an end. Finally, when the last thunderclap sounded, the heavenly tribulation cloud disappeared. The heavenly tribulation cloud also disappeared. The 12 people who had finally survived the heavenly tribulation could not hold on any longer. They fell to the ground in a mess. Their bodies were all char-black. They looked like 12 pieces of charcoal. Li Chenglong, Xiang Bing, Xiang Chong, Long Yusheng, Wan Li Xiu, Yu Moyan Dinger, Li Zhongming, Yin Gao Chao Pai Bao, and Zhun Piapiao saw that the heavenly tribulation had disappeared. They heaved a sigh of relief. Except for a few who could still move their eyes, the rest of them had already fallen into a deep coma. Zhuo Changlu also heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he and Wu Yuding made their moves at the same time. Zhuo Changlu was in charge of the men, and Wu Yuding was in charge of the women. They waved their sleeves and rolled them up. Then, they teleported back to the city. On the way back, the two of them kept talking to each other. We need to interrogate these little guys properly. Everything came out. That's right. What's wrong with you, Moyan's evil sword? It's too fierce. It was ready to fight back against the heavenly tribulation just now. That sword is indeed domineering. It can be said that the sword is similar to its master's form. The man and the sword are connected. However, that Pai Bao's bow is a little too powerful. It can actually shoot through the tribulation clouds. In this battle, if they didn't have that bow to break through the tribulation clouds multiple times, causing the accumulated power of the tribulation clouds to be greatly reduced, I'm afraid that they might not have been able to pass through safely. And Li Chenglong's inheritance from the ancient big demon is also very powerful. He is very good at fighting. It is more or less a waste for such a big demon's inheritance to fall on him. Alright, his martial arts attribute seems to be ice attribute too. That guy is called Long Yuxing, right? At the critical moment, he actually transformed into a dragon head. Other than his unique martial arts, he should also have the blessing of the origin of his bloodline. He has a promising future. His wife Wan Lixio's bright, moon-like martial arts. It's similar to little Nieners. They might be able to learn from each other. And that little fatty, he should be cultivating the dream divine technique. It has been a long time since I saw a cultivator who cultivated the dream divine technique to the level of returning mysterious. Passing the heavenly tribulation while snoring. It's been a long time. Yeah, we have fought with this kind of cultivator before. The dream divine technique allows one to kill in one's dream, to comprehend Tao in one's dream. Even if one dies, one can dream for 1,000 years and extend one's life. A truly profound cultivator can dream about the future and deduce the universe in one's dream. Its power is terrifying. It's just that there are very few people who have achieved great success in this technique. Now that I have seen this technique, I am quite touched. Yeah. Chapter 1196. After a few words, the two of them had returned to the small courtyard. Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaoyan had also rushed back. When Zhou Xiaoduo saw that Li Chenglong and the others had successfully passed the tribulation, he finally felt relieved. Even though he had already read their faces and knew that they would be able to move forward without any obstacles, he was still worried when it came to it. Only now did he feel at ease. However, once a certain someone was relieved, his mind immediately turned to other things. Thus, he winked at Zhou Xiaoyan along the way. Then he kept transmitting his voice to her. Nian Mao, hee Nian Mao. Little kitty, I like to play with cats. Nian Mao, I'm flying. Roar, roar, think about what we still have to do. Roar, roar. Gagaga, flying. Flying is good. Flying is wonderful. Flying is so beautiful. Flying is so beautiful. Flying can find a wife. Flying can meow, meow, meow. Dang, 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 dang. Zhou Xiaoyan felt irritated. She wanted to ride on him and beat him up to show her affection. However, she kept a straight face and ignored him coldly. She was very cold and reserved. Zhou Xiaoduo kept transmitting his voice to her, provoking, teasing, and flirting. Zhou Xiaoyan still ignored him. You're actually flying. You're catching up with me. Perhaps you're even stronger than me in terms of combat power? How dare you? Wouldn't a puppy be so proud of itself? Besides, this guy had always wanted to fly. There was another thing. Now that he was here, what should she do? Every time she thought about this, Zhou Xiaoyan felt as if her whole body was on fire. She yearned for it, but she was also a little afraid. At the same time, she was also a little unwilling to let a certain someone succeed. Melancholy. Zhou Xiaoyan was very conflicted. She wanted to be reserved, but she also felt that the time was up, that what should she do? She would ask her mother when she got back and see what she had to say. I've always listened to her. Even if she asked me to do that, I'll just follow her wishes. He returned to the small courtyard. He spread the quilt on the floor and placed them on the bed one by one. There were simply too many people, and there was not enough space on the bed. He could only choose to place the girls on the bed first. As for the group of rough boys, a quilt was enough to cushion them. Wu Yuding, Zhou Xiaoyan, and Bai Yunduo were taking care of the girls. Outside, Zhou Chonglu and Lei Changtian were chatting while Zhou Xiaoduo was working to take care of his fellow sufferers. Zhou Xiaoduo took out his phone and took pictures of everyone's miserable faces. He laughed as he took pictures. These were all high-quality materials. Originally, he wanted to sneak in and take pictures of Gao Xiao, Wan Lixio, and the others' miserable faces, but he was mercilessly suppressed by Wu Yuding and then thrown out by Zhou Xiaoyan that he sighed and fed each of them pills and kicked them a few times while he was at it. He wanted to use the divine stone, but Zhou Chonglu grabbed him by the neck and spun him around. He was dazzled. Bastard, that's a good thing to use when saving lives. Now that their lives are not in danger, and there are people protecting them. What's wrong with recovering a little slower? This divine stone is a heaven-defying treasure that can instantly recover at a critical moment and turn the tables. Do you want to waste it like this? Zhuchanglu really found it hard to understand his son's generosity. Wasn't this guy quite stingy before? Little did he know that although Zhuchanglu was stingy compared to being stingy, Zhuchanglu was actually more afraid of trouble, something that could be healed with the divine stone, but he, as the boss, had to wait on him for so long. How could there be such a logic in this world? At this moment, Dongfang Zhengyang came and landed in the courtyard hurriedly. Boss, I have something important to discuss with you. What is it? Zhuchanglu's expression immediately became serious. He knew what kind of person Dongfang Zhengyang was. Dongfang Zhengyang was an expert in aura observation, and every word he said was accurate. However, it was also because of this that he knew the heavens the best. Outside of military matters, he was a man of few words, but every time he spoke, he would be accurate. Seeing that Dongfang Zhengyang was hesitating, Zhuchanglu immediately disappeared with Dongfang Zhengyang and set up a soundproof enchantment. Boss, it looks like the Heavenly Tao formation has already been activated. Dongfang Zhengyang said. I already know that. Zhuchanglu nodded. So there's something I have to remind you of. Dongfang Zhengyang said, before June, Xiao Duo and the others must not break through to the Tao integration stage. What day is it now? These few days have been so blurry that I can't even tell the time. It's the 5th day of the 2nd lunar month, the 17th day of the 3rd lunar month. Dongfang Zhengyang said, according to the Gregorian calendar, the 20th day of the 5th lunar month is the day of extreme yang, and the dragon race for the heritage should also happen on that day. I've observed the heavenly Tao formation, and it should also happen on that day. And the variable that I foresee is Xiao Duo and the others. Before this time, Xiao Duo and the others are variables in the heavenly Tao formation, and they can be relied on to change the direction of the heavenly Tao formation. Now that the heavenly Tao has been set up, it is no longer a situation that we can rashly interfere with. If we forcefully interfere with the heavenly Tao and cause the established heavenly Tao to fail, it will definitely backfire on the heavenly Tao. The great Tao will be turbulent, and the demon race and other races that are drifting outside will follow this direction and return even faster. Based on this theory, everything must be done within the rules, and no one can overstep them. As such, Xiao Duo and the others naturally cannot break through to the Tao integration stage before the 20th day of the 5th lunar month. Otherwise, their status as variables in the heavenly Tao formation would not be valid. Dongfang Zhengyang sighed, looking at the people in the courtyard who had just completed their heaven's tribulation. Dongfang Zhengyang did not expect himself to say something like this. Logically speaking, cultivators who had just broken through to the heavenly Tao integration stage would need at least 30 to 50 years of consolidation, 100 to 80 years of experience, and a few hundred to a few dozen years of training. Dream on. In fact, it was normal for one to not be able to break through to the Tao integration stage in 100, 200, or even 2,000 years. However, the dozen or so cultivators in front of him could not be judged by logic. One had to know that these little cultivators were only Khanate martial masters 2 to 3 years ago, and they had only cultivated for a few days. However, they had already broken through to the embryonic breathing core, nascent soul, cloud imperial spirit, mystic soul, and ascended to the heavens. But taking everything into account, it would only take a little more than 2 years. If one were to analyze it in detail, this was a terrifying and sensational thing. At least in Dongfang Zhengyang's opinion, it was not strange at all for them to break through to the Tao integration stage in 3 to 5 months. It was because of this concern that Dongfang Zhengyang was worried that if he did not warn them in advance, these little cultivators would be blessed with good fortune, and they would have plenty of high-quality resources. Furthermore, with Xiaoduo's space-destroying tower, they would all have the conditions to improve rapidly. If they suddenly broke through to the Tao integration stage before the 20th day of the 5th lunar month, the situation would be very bad. If something went wrong, The Heavenly Tao formation would only be able to watch as those who wanted to steal all the fortune in their hands. Zhuo Changlu also thought of this, and he said solemnly, "All right, I understand. I will tell Xiao Duo. Why don't you call him over?" After all, Xiao Duo's aura divination technique is also. Dongfang Zhengyang said. Zhuo Changlu looked at Dongfang Zhengyang with a half-smile. Dongfang Zhengyang coughed and said, "I know that Xiao Duo was taught by He Yuanyue, the late principal of the second high school in Phoenix City, and his attainments are not shallow. However, I am confident that there is no one in this world who can compare to him in the Tao of aura divination." So Changlu smiled and said, "If that's the case then, I will have to trouble you, Brother Dongfang." You're welcome. Thank you, boss." Dongfang Zhengyang was very emotional. Zhuo Changlu's words were equivalent to giving him a huge karma. And this karma with Zhuo Xiaoduo was a very meaningful thing for Dongfang Zhengyang and the Dongfang family. As a grandmaster of aura divination, how could General Dongfang not understand the importance of this? Even though he was the one giving away his precious inheritance, he still had to thank Zhuo Changlu, because Zhuo Changlu had promised him in the future. After a short while, Zhuo Xiaoduo arrived. Dongfang Zhengyang explained the situation to him again. Zhuo Xiaoduo furrowed his brows in deep thought before ascending into the sky with Dongfang Zhengyang. Not long after, the two of them descended from the sky. Dongfang Zhengyang asked, "How is it?" "It's fine." Zhuo Xiaoduo's brows furrowed slightly. "I don't think there's a need to deliberately slow down our cultivation speed. We can just cultivate normally. Not only that, we have to speed up, but..." Dongfang Zhengyang was just about to say something when he suddenly came to a realization. "You're saying..." "That's right, if I'm not mistaken. Being in the Heavenly Tao formation is equivalent to being in another world, a world without the laws of the Heavenly Tao. No matter how hard we try, we won't be able to make a breakthrough. Uncle Dongfang, you're right to say that we're variables in the Heavenly Tao formation. However, you're overestimating us if you say that we can quickly make a breakthrough to the Tao integration stage. Taking everything into consideration, I can basically conclude that the reason Li Chenglong and the others were able to transcend the heavenly tribulation together was not only because of human factors, but also because of the will of the heavens. In fact, they were able to successfully transcend the heavenly tribulation because the heavenly Tao made use of them to break through to the Tao integration stage. The explosion of energy formed the final link of the heavenly Tao formation. After they successfully broke through to the Tao integration stage, the heavenly Tao formation was also completed. It was the best of both worlds, but at the same time, there was an additional layer of hidden connection between them. As a result, with the heavenly Tao formation now in place, it's definitely impossible for Li Chenglong and the others to break through to the Tao integration stage. We have to wait until this formation is over before we can talk about what happens next. On the other hand, what I'm really concerned about, but what I can't be sure about, is which wills of the heavenly Tao are behind this formation and what the final direction of the formation is going to be. Zhuo Xiaoduo said, "Uncle Dongfang's concerns are naturally reasonable, but you don't have to worry about us making a breakthrough in advance. Uncle Dongfang, you may not know this, but when the Phoenix Meridian soul-surging formation was in the past, Nyan Cat clearly had the ability to break through the inherent bottleneck, but she was unable to do so. It wasn't because her cultivation was not high enough, nor was it because she didn't understand it. Instead, it was because she was in the formation, and the destiny formation was suppressing her breakthrough. The third update is estimated to be around 9 o'clock at night. I'm writing quite slowly today, as I have to think about how to start this formation as soon as possible. I originally wanted to write 2 updates, but everyone's understanding and support makes me feel embarrassed if I don't write more. Therefore, I'll do my best to repay your kindness." Chapter 1197. Actually, from a long-term perspective, the suppression from the Destiny Bureau that day made Nyan Yin's foundation unprecedentedly stable. That time, I estimate that the Heavenly Tao Bureau suppressed her true yuan at least 50 times, which is far beyond that realm. At that time, the true yuan suppression she could endure was the limit. Based on this reason, we can do the opposite this round. Not only do we not slow down, but we can also help Li Chenglong and the others reach the peak of the Skysoar realm as soon as possible. With the Heavenly Fate Bureau suppressing their true energy, we won't waste it. We can strengthen our foundation as much as possible, especially since the Heavenly Fate Bureau is helping us to suppress our true energy. We won't have to endure the pain of doing it ourselves. In other words, the earlier we do it, the stronger our foundation, the more benefits we will receive. Zhuo Xiaoduo said confidently. Zhuo Chonglu didn't understand, so he looked at Dongfang Xingyang and asked, "Is that so?" Yes, Xiaoduo is right. I've overlooked something. Dongfang Xingyang was speechless. In fact, Dongfang Xingyang didn't really miscalculate. After all, he hadn't experienced the Phoenix Pulse Spirit Bureau, so he didn't know the exact effects of Zhuo Xiaoyan. It was understandable that he didn't think of this. In fact, his original plan was the more mature one. However, Dongfang Xingyang didn't expect Zhuo Xiaoduo to be so skilled that he could fix his mistakes. His heart couldn't help but warm up. "Xiaoduo, your uncle Dongfang has just discussed with me. He wants to teach you everything he has learned from Qi observation." Zhuo Chonglu smiled and said, "This is the fruit of your uncle Dongfang's blood and sweat. Kowtow to your uncle Dongfang." "Thank you, Uncle Dongfang. I'm flattered." Zhuo Xiaoduo was overjoyed when he heard this. Without another word, he immediately laid on the ground and kowtowed 3 times. He had always felt that he was lacking in the cultivation of the aura examination technique. Now that he had met a master, and one who was second to none in the world, he was naturally overjoyed. All right. Dongfang Xingyang was so excited that his voice was trembling. He looked at Zhuo Chonglu with gratitude before taking out the 9 jade pendants. "This is my unique Qi gazing mantra, a cultivation method. This is the experience of some seniors in my sect. This is a personal letter from a master of astral souls. This is the summary of the experience of the Umno Alliance. This is the Tao Leagues. These are the aura gazing methods I've collected. Some belong to the spirit race, some belong to the Yao race. This is..." He handed them over to Zhuo Xiaoduo one by one and said with relief, "With your foundation and cultivation, as long as you have these inheritances in your hands, you don't need me to teach you on the spot. You only need to see them and you will understand. However, when you have free time, you should try to understand more, especially the cases of many seniors on the Qi viewing case. You will have your own insights and improvements will be just around the corner." Zhuo Chonglu was a little surprised. "Dongfang, you seem to be in a hurry." "It's not that I'm in a hurry, boss. Since the Heavenly Tao has been set up, it will not allow people like us who can influence the situation to cause trouble here. Therefore, a lot of things will happen in the near future, and we can't stay in the capital. The Heavenly Tao is like a knife. It's not just a saying. Therefore, if you want to set up a backup plan, you have to start now." "That's reasonable." Zhuo Chonglu was deep in thought. Li Chenglong and the others had been dealt with. Now, they just had to lie down and wait for them to wake up. There was nothing else to do for now. Lei Changtian and Bai Yunduo were in charge of looking after them. Then, Zhuo Xiaoyan and Zhuo Xiaoduo, who were flirting with each other, were carried into the room by Zhuo Chonglu and his wife. Zhuo Chonglu squeezed Zhuo Xiaoduo's neck, and Wei Yuding squeezed Zhuo Xiaoyan's neck. The husband and wife looked as if one was carrying a cat and the other a dog. After they were carried into the room, they set up a soundproof barrier, making it seem like they were in a secret place. They casually made 2 small stools and let the 2 of them sit upright on them. Then, Chief Judge Zhuo and Chief Judge Wu began to interrogate the 2 of them. "Tell us," Zhuo Chonglu said sternly. "Tell us what?" Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaoyan looked at each other. Their faces were full of confusion. They did not know what was going on and did not know why they were being interrogated. What was going on? Why were they being interrogated all of a sudden? "Tell us what?" "Tell us about the things in your hands. Tell us, where did they come from? Did they fall from the sky?" Wu Yuding glared at them. Her face was full of menace. Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaoyan actually shuddered at the same time. Their mother's power was still overwhelming. She was still the #1 threat in their lives that could not be ignored. Otherwise, how could she be the chief judge? Tell us, what exactly? Zhuo Xiaoyan had already curled into a ball. She really didn't know where her mother's question came from, so she didn't know how to answer. Just tell us what we don't know. Even if you really tell us that they fell from the sky, it's fine as long as you tell us. Wu Yuding and Zhuo Chonglu were very experienced in dealing with Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaoyan. Although Zhuo Xiaoyan was the older sister, she had always been the most cowardly one. She would turn into a quail as soon as she glared at them. As for Zhuo Xiaoduo, he had been much more thick-skinned since he was young. Basically, he would only confess the truth after being tortured. Therefore, every time they were interrogated together, Zhuo Xiaoyan would be the breakthrough point. First, they would set an example. Then, Zhuo Xiaoduo would tell the truth. It had almost become a habit. Now that they were playing the same old tune again, it was still the same. It seemed that the trick was not new. As long as it worked, it was good. No matter how old the trick was, it was still habitual. Zhuo Xiaoduo's expression was still the same as before. He seemed to be confused, but in fact he was stubbornly resisting and trying to come up with a countermeasure. However, Zhuo Xiaoyan had already started to confess. I didn't get anything good. I only got an ice soul. It was the one that Xiao Duo won that day. But later, I swallowed hundreds of ancient ice souls and frost essence. It was an opportunity that I got when Duo brought me to Baishan City the last time. Wu Yuding and Zhuo Zhonglu had a calm look on their faces, as if everything was under their control. However, they didn't know what to say in their hearts. I only got an ice soul. Later, I swallowed hundreds of ancient ice souls. Listen, listen, listen. Is this something that a human would say? If the ice abyss which heard this, she would at least spit out a mouthful of blood. These two little guys did not realize what kind of opportunity they got at all. Also, Xiao Duo brought me and accidentally found the palace of the Azure Dragon Lord. Because of that, I got the inheritance of the Tying Fairy. Yes, Xiao Duo also got part of the inheritance of the Azure Dragon Lord. There were also some spiritual items, such as the honey of laurel. Zhuo Xiaoyan was an honest girl. She honestly told them everything. In every few sentences, she would habitually mention, "Little Duo, take me." Therefore, the mastermind and accomplice of the two were clear at a glance. So Xiaoduo did not feel anything strange about this. It was mainly because he had experienced this too many times since he was young. He was already used to it. Usually, when the siblings did something wrong, Zhuo Xiaoyan would always say, "Xiao Duo pulled me. Then Xiao Duo told me to do it, then Xiao Duo." This kind of scapegoat had become a habit. It would be strange if Zhuo Xiaoyan did not say this one day. She would wonder if Nian Yan was sick, had a fever, had a brain damage, or had been possessed and replaced by someone else. This situation continued until Zhuo Xiaoyan became a cultivator and cultivated to the innate level. Only then did it improve. At that time, Zhuo Xiaoduo no longer had the ability to bring Zhuo Xiaoyan to cause trouble. Fighting 5 scums with a cultivator who had entered the Dao and was a high-level cultivator who was known as a genius. This combination was not appropriate at all. However, today it was obvious that Zhuo Xiaoduo had regained his ability and qualifications. Therefore, the scapegoat was naturally placed on his back. Nothing else. Xiao Duo has been running to my room these days. Sometimes he kisses, touches, ha, cough, cough, cough. That's all. Zhuo Xiaoyan hurriedly covered her mouth. Her face was red from embarrassment. Under Wu Yuding's pressure, Zhuo Xiaoyan habitually confessed everything. She told them everything that she should not say. She almost told them how Zhuo Xiaoduo had taken advantage of her. Although she stopped in time to stop the damage, she was so embarrassed that she almost wanted to crawl into a hole. Wu Yuding and Zhuo Chonglu looked at each other. They did not know whether to laugh or cry. This girl was too honest. They had already decided to give her to Xiao Duo. If she was betrothed to someone else, how could the old couple be at ease? Well, little puppy, this guy is a troublemaker. How could they be at ease when they decided to give her to him? Sigh, children are all debts. If you give birth to a child at 100 years old, you will have to worry for 99 years. Once you have a child, you have to accept your fate. Fuck, we're the two of us thinking about. Is this the time to think about these minor details? What about you? Zhou Xiaoyan quickly finished talking, and it was Zhou Xiaoduo's turn. This was a lazy guy, an oily loach, a well-tempered troublemaker, or a copper pea who had no taboos. In short, he was not easy to deal with. As long as they could not suppress him, they would not be able to get a word of truth out of him. I have nothing to say. Didn't Sister Nian say everything that should be said and should not be said? What else do I have to say? So Xiaoduo looked honest and said in an innocent tone, Huh, are you sure? I'm sure. Are you sure? So Xiaoduo was a little hesitant. Why did it seem like he had really grasped something? Hence, he was terrified. Be honest and speak. Actually, it's nothing much. It's just that I obtained something from the Azure Dragon Sage. Nian Nian doesn't recognize it, but it seems to be a part of the creation disk. But I haven't fused with it yet, so I wanted to try it after I flew. So Xiaoduo looked calm on the surface, but he was actually very confused on the inside. He could only choose something that he thought was not very important, or rather, something that Zhou Xiaoyan had already exposed. Chapter 1198. Based on Zhou Xiaoduo's understanding of his parents, they must have known something. That was why they decided to put him on trial. But the problem was that what exactly do you two want me to say? This is how the Public Security Bureau deals with criminals. They don't ask you anything and make you explain yourself first. How would I know what to explain and what not to explain? Do you think I'm so easy to scare like Nian Mao? This creation plate came from the same place as the Azure Dragon Temple that Nian Mao had told him about, that Xiaoduo felt that this shouldn't be anything special. Therefore, he threw out the first item. Hiss. There was indeed a new discovery. Creation plate. Zhou Zhonglu sucked in a cold breath as he deployed another layer of soundproof barrier. A corner? Why is there a corner of this thing? Take it out and let me see. This is it. Zhou Xiaoduo took out the corner of the creation plate that he had obtained from the Azure Dragon Temple and handed it to Zhou. Changlu and his wife were shocked and speechless. We originally wanted to ask him what those things that had appeared when he was transcending the tribulation were. But before we could even begin to explain, he took the initiative to give us a creation plate. This was a completely unexpected hobby. We thought that you had already integrated the creation plate into your divine soul. That's why you had that mysterious idea and supernatural power. In the end, you actually obtained another corner? Didn't that mean this was simply turning the world upside down, okay? Holding it in their hands, the couple looked back and forth and communicated with each other through telepathy. It was the creation plate. The couple had been searching for this thing for tens of thousands of years. Or rather, the entire human race and the astral souls have been searching for this thing for tens of thousands of years. They all knew that this thing existed. Maybe, probably. But they didn't know what it was used for. Now, Zhou Xiaoduo had thrown out a corner as if it were a glass ball, feeling the boundless and mysterious aura inside. Zhou Changlu and Wu Yuding were certain at first glance that this was definitely not fake, because the profound aura of the heavenly Tao within it was absolutely impossible to fake. After watching for a long time, even Zhou Changlu faintly felt that his path of the great Tao was a little shocking. The shock caused Zhou Zhonglu's heart to shudder. Wu Yuding felt the same way. The two of them looked at each other, their eyes solemn. His path of the great Tao was shocking. This meant that his path of the great Tao was still lacking compared to the path of the great Tao of the creation plate. This in itself was a huge flaw. The creation plate contained 3,000 great Taos. Legend had it that among the 3,000 great Taos of the creation disk, there was a perfect great Tao hidden. Even the Tao ancestor had not discovered this great Tao. By the time the Tao ancestor wanted to seriously comprehend it, the creation disk had already shattered. Now, the legendary boundless great Tao seemed to be right in front of him. Zhou Changlu closed his eyes and steadied his mind. Wu Yuding also closed her eyes and steadied her mind. The husband and wife both had the same thought. Their son had already embarked on this path of great opportunity. As his parents, How could they snatch it from their son? Therefore, the two of them had to give it up. Give it to Xiao Duo. Wu Yuding opened her eyes and stared at Zhuo Chonglu. Give it to our son. Zhuo Chonglu opened his eyes and looked at his wife with determination. Then the two of them smiled at each other. Then they handed the creation plate back. It had been in Zhuo Xiaoduo's hand. Put away. From now on, this thing can't be seen by anyone, including the two of us and your sister Nian. From now on, this matter can't be known by anyone. Do you understand? The two of them looked extremely serious at the same time. The fact that their son could directly take out something related to the Great Tao really made his biological parents feel a little shocked. But this kid was so stupid to take it out like that. They weren't his parents, were they? They had to remind him. When your soul is complete, the two of us will watch you fuse and protect you, Wu Yuding said seriously. This was a big matter. They couldn't be careless. Okay. So Xiao Duo saw his parents' extremely serious expressions and was a little puzzled, but he still obediently put it away. He thought to himself, this is nothing. There's still 3 corners waiting for me to take back. Actually, this is just a prop. I don't even think of it as something good, it's just a corner. What's so good about it? So Xiao Duo was very disdainful in his heart. We have plenty of this thing. Seeing Zhuo Xiao Duo put it away carefully, Zhuo Chonglu and his wife were finally relieved. They heaved a sigh of relief. Then Wu Yuding said lightly, by the way, who told you that? This corner of the creation plate can only be fused after reaching the sky realm? This meant that Zhuo Xiao Duo had also shown it to others. This was a hidden danger. They had to ask clearly. And that person actually didn't snatch it. That means he's definitely our staunch ally. They had to ask clearly. This. Zhuo Xiao Duo coughed. Indeed, the more one talks, the more mistakes one makes. This time, Elder One was definitely going to be exposed. It's a little long story. The last time I was brought to the Umno Alliance by Grandpa, I received Zhu Wu Zhu Rong's inheritance by chance and was teleported to a place called the Heavenly Spirit Forest. What the hell? You received Zhu Wu Zhu Rong's inheritance by chance? You received Zhu Wu's inheritance, the Lord of all Flames, Fire God, Zhu Rong's inheritance? Zhuo Chonglu asked, which aspect? You were too vague last time and didn't ask in detail. Zhuo Xiao Duo slapped his head. Indeed, the more he spoke, the more he was wrong. The more he spoke, the more he would expose himself. His parents' brains weren't made of wood. He only gave him a few clues, and then they pulled out a huge truck. It seemed like his background was going to be dug up completely. The so-called inheritance is probably the elemental fire art and Zhu Rong's true fire, and so on. Since his parents weren't outsiders, Zhuo Xiao Duo explained everything in detail. Halfway through, Wu Yuding had already flown into a rage several times, wanting to go out and beat Lei Changtian up. Even if she couldn't beat him up, she would at least go out and give him a good scolding. No, at least 2 or 3 scoldings. I never expected that the last time this old guy brought my son to the Umno Alliance, there were so many unforeseen events. After experiencing so many things, it was as if he was wandering around the gates of hell every moment. How could a grandfather be like this? I'm going to die from anger. Although my son received a lot of benefits because of this and obtained a lot of things that he couldn't even dream of, but that old guy still needs to be taught a lesson. And then what? When you were going through the tribulation, those grasshoppers, what happened? Was it the backup that Elder One gave you? Wu Yuding asked. Yes, it was that Elder One. In fact, he gave me a lot of good things. So Xiao Duo hurriedly grabbed a handful of seeds. Dad, Mom, these are the seeds of a kind of spirit vine. As long as you plant them with a spirit gathering array, 2 or 3 of them can grow into a villa on their own. Even a main body, courtyard walls, furniture, etc. Everything can grow into the way you want it to grow. This thing is great. In the future, when our family lives in seclusion, it'll be useful. And after it grows, it can automatically absorb spiritual energy to assist in cultivation. Even Zhuo Zhonglu and Wu Yuding, who had seen a lot of things, couldn't help but be stunned when they saw so many good things in front of them. That Elder One is so generous. He gave you so many at once. Wu Yuding looked at Zhua Xiaoduo's hands. There were at least 200 or 300 seeds, right? This master of the spirit clan was so generous. These were legendary good things. How could he give so many at once to his son? Just one. Zhua Xiaoduo stared blankly and said, "This is nothing. Elder One gave me a huge sack in one go. Just based on the amount, it should be at least a few 100,000, right?" Hearing this number, Zhua Chonglu and Wu Yuding felt dizzy. Did he give you all of his family's wealth? Why did he find you so pleasing to the eye? Little dog, tell me the truth. Does that Elder One have a granddaughter or something? Does he want you to be his grandson-in-law or something? Wu Yuding asked a little strangely. Zhua Xiaoyan suddenly widened her eyes. Mom, you have to make it clear. She immediately turned her head and glared at Zhua Xiaoduo. A pair of small canine teeth faintly showed. Little dog, you have to be careful with what you say. What? Mom, what are you thinking? Elder One is all alone. He doesn't even have a son or daughter. How can he have a granddaughter? He just likes me. If he really has something else, I won't do it. Just for this little thing, I won't sell myself? Zhua Xiaoduo felt wronged. Feeling Zhua Xiaoyan's fierce gaze, he felt cold all over and hurriedly tried to prove his innocence. Just this little thing? How dare you say that? These seeds that Elder One gave you, I don't dare to say that more than 90% of the practitioners in the 3 continents would cry and beg to be related to him. Is it necessary? Let me tell you, boy, is it necessary? Even your father and I can't afford such a big gift. Do you think it's necessary? Ha! Doesn't this prove that your son's character is good? Really? Really? Don't you have any other conditions? Wu Yuding asked step by step, because this was really too big a matter. With such heavy karma, if he said that he didn't ask for anything, wouldn't he be lying? Therefore, although Zhua Xiaoduo denied it many times, Wu Yuding still didn't believe it. This was absolutely impossible. Even if the Ancestral Lord gave you so many things, he must have a request. Otherwise, why would he give it to you? Although I admit that you are handsome, what benefits do you get from being handsome other than making your mother proud and your wife feel threatened? Didn't you see that Feng Ling who wrote the novel? Because he was handsome, he didn't even have a secret stash now. Zhua Xiaoduo thought for a long time before saying, "It's not that Elder One doesn't have a request, but that request. I don't think I can fulfill it." What request? Zhua Chonglu and Wu Yuding stopped at the same time and focused. Zhua Xiaoduo might not understand such a request, but how could the two of them not understand? Chapter 1199. Elder One said that, if one day I can rule the world, he hopes that I can let the Ling clan live. That's probably what he meant, right? Zhua Xiaoduo said with uncertainty. Thinking of his condition, Zhua Xiaoduo actually still felt that it was a little ridiculous that how high did he think of him? Are you sure? Zhua Chonglu and his wife's eyes bulged as they asked at the same time. Zhua Xiaoduo racked his brains again and finally said, I'm sure. Are you sure? The fate of an entire clan. This time, not only Wu Yuding, but also Zhua Chonglu's face turned pale. Both of them felt as if the sky had collapsed. I'm sure, that's what he said. Zhua Xiaoduo nodded, a little confused. He deeply felt that his parents were making a mountain out of a molehill. It was not a big deal. Your son did not even have the confidence to reach that level. Son! Wu Yuding covered her face with both hands and rubbed her temples with her fingers a few times. She said weakly, You're really bold. The fate of an entire clan. Zhua Chonglu sighed deeply. For a moment, the two of them felt powerless to complain. Damn it, it's our blessing to have such an idiotic son. He agreed to the fate of an entire clan in a muddle-headed way. Where did his confidence come from? This is not a big deal, right? Zhua Xiaoduo was a little uneasy. What do you think? I don't think it's a big deal. If I can't reach that level, this agreement is as good as nothing, right? Yes, but if I really reach that level, this kind of thing can be done with just a word from me, right? Zhua Xiaoduo said complacently. Wu Yuding and Zhua Chonglu looked at each other. There was nothing wrong with the little dogs thinking but that son, you seem to have overlooked too much. You only saw the result, but not the process. So Changlu asked, what if you don't know if you can reach that level in the future and the spirit clan is destroyed? What will you do? If the spirit race continues to face such a crisis, what will you do? Wu Yuding asked. If you give up on rescuing him, what if you end up in that situation in the future? Can you bear the karma of an entire race? If you don't give up, how many lives and sacrifices will you have to make to fulfill this promise of yours? What if you still can't reach that realm after everyone sacrifices themselves? There are too many things going on here. You think too simply. Wu Yuding sighed and tapped Zhua Xiaoduo's forehead. You've promised the karma of an entire race. If you don't understand, you can imagine if the fate of the entire astral souls rests on your shoulders. If you say that you don't care, tens of billions of people will die. If you say that you care, tens of billions of people will live. Think about it. How big of a karma is this? Zhua Xiaoduo was stunned. Is it that serious? It is that serious. Zhua Changlu and Wu Yuding nodded at the same time. Then they saw Zhua Xiaoduo scratching his head and saying helplessly, "But I've already promised. What can I do?" This sentence made the whole family speechless. Yes, no matter how serious the consequences are, he has already promised. What can you do? Then you can only bear with it, bear with it. Zhua Changlu said speechlessly. Isn't that it? Wait for things to happen. What's the big deal? Zhua Xiaoduo said. Zhua Changlu and Wu Yuding were speechless. They looked at each other and felt the difference in their thinking. Is this the generation gap? Have the young people's thinking become to take one step at a time and cross the bridge when the time comes? And our thinking of preparing for a rainy day is outdated? The husband and wife were stunned for a while before they recovered. Suddenly, they felt dispirited. Forget it, what else? There's also, Zhua Xiaoduo called Yan Shirsi out. A mass of black fog with monstrous demonic flames came and went. This is... Zhua Changlu frowned. The god-slaying spear. Dad, you're really knowledgeable. Zhua Xiaoduo was immediately impressed. It's really the god-slaying spear? Although they were mentally prepared, the two were still stunned. The legendary god-slaying spear. Is this it? This is not the complete god-slaying spear. Zhua Xiaoduo explained the ins and outs. Zhua Changlu and Wu Yuding finally understood and couldn't help but click their tongues in wonder. There was actually such a thing. This is a great opportunity. Zhua Changlu and Wu Yuding felt that this was karma with the demon ancestor and the demon race, but this was equivalent to increasing their son's strength. It was a blessing. After the shock of the creation plate, they were not so shocked about the god-slaying spear. The two actually felt that it was just SOSO. But this is the world-famous god-slaying spear, and in my heart, it's just SOSO. Zhua Changlu and Wu Yuding both felt that their thoughts were a little too awesome. When did I become so indifferent? I don't even care about the god-slaying spear. Why didn't I know? What else? Wu Yuding said gracefully. Zhua Xiaoduo thought for a while and called Xiao out. Xiao had already recovered, and the black fur all over her body glowed faintly with a golden light. She was very lively as she jumped around on the ground. Mama, ahem. So Xiaoduo coughed and pointed at his parents. This is Grandpa, this is Grandma. Xiao darted into Zhua Xiaoduo's arms with a whoosh and looked out furtively. Grandpa? Grandma? Zhua Xiaonian said angrily. Then what am I? Zhua Xiaoduo scratched his head and said, Your daddy. Zhua Xiaonian was successfully stunned. Under Zhua Xiaoduo's urging, Xiao shyly came out to greet her parents. Hello, Grandpa, Grandma. Zhua Changlu and Wu Yuding were dumbfounded and pale. Their 4 eyes were wide open. Grandpa? Grandma? We leveled up just like that? Xiao Duo is Mama. Then aren't we Grandpa and Grandma? Why is Xiao Duo Mama? Not Daddy. That's not right. But that we leveled up. We really don't dare to level up like that. Zhua Zhanglu and Wu Yuding might be peerless existences in the world, and they might be the most daring people in the world, but they still wouldn't dare to accept the greetings of Grandpa and Grandma. If I didn't guess wrongly, this person should be the legendary 7th Prince of the Demon Emperor Majesty. Although he should be reborn now, his roots were still there. Even if he reincarnated 100,000 times, he was still the seventh prince of the Demon King. Other things aside, if they agreed to call them Grandpa and Grandma, what should the Demon King, Demon Empress, and Don Juan call them when they see them in the future? The Demon King's son would call them Grandpa and Grandma. Oh my God, this. This was a damn karma that could take one's life. Zhuo Changlu's lips twitched, and he couldn't help but scratch his head. No matter how daring I am, I definitely don't dare to let the Demon King call me Daddy. Xiao timidly plucked up her courage and called them Grandpa and Grandma. She looked and waited expectantly. However, Wu Yuding and Zhuo Changlu didn't speak for a long time. Xiao suddenly felt inferior. She lowered her head in disappointment and grievance. Tears flashed in her eyes. Mommy, Grandpa and Grandma don't like me. How can that be? Zhuo Xiaoduo was stunned. What was their reaction? Why weren't they responding? Who said they don't like you? Wu Yuding quickly reacted and hugged Xiao in her arms. She laughed and said, I thought I would only be promoted after a few years. I didn't expect to become a grandma now. Good child, good child. Xiao instantly became happy. Zhuo Changlu also smiled and said, Grandpa is so happy that he suddenly has a grandson. Ha! He also thought it through. Zhuo Xiaoduo had already accepted this karma. As parents, they were already involved in this karma. They couldn't escape. Since they couldn't escape, they had to face it bravely. Demon King. So what? I am the Sky Inspecting Minister, the #1 person in the Astral Souls continent. My status is not inferior to him, the Demon King. I can't defeat him, but, my seniority is higher. Zhuo Changlu searched through his spatial ring and found 2 heavenly fire essences. Each of them was the size of a human head. They were a gift from his grandparents. This was something that the husband and wife had obtained by chance. Originally, they wanted to give it to Zhuo Xiaoduo after he broke through to the Sky Soar realm. But now, they could only take out 2 of them and give them to their grandson. Thank you, Grandpa. Thank you, Grandma. Xiao was so excited that she jumped around. She was so excited that she almost laughed out loud. Dad, Mom, what about me? Zhuo Xiaoduo looked enviously and couldn't help but stretch out his hand. You? Zhuo Changlu's face twisted. This is a gift for our grandson. Why do you want one too? How can there be such a logic in this world? But I am your son, Zhuo Xiaoduo said confidently. Up until now, I haven't enjoyed even a little bit of the benefits of being the second generation. My heart is so cold. All right. Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding took out the remaining 4 pieces. You can have them all. Is that enough? Can you stop acting pitiful? I can't bear to see it. It's too fake. The second generation is so lucky. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Mom. Zhuo Xiaoduo kept them and beamed. Then he turned to Xiao and said, Give your 2 pieces to Mommy for safekeeping. There's such a thing? Wu Yuding was stunned. This guy is so familiar with my methods. Thank you, Mommy. Xiao happily offered them. Oh, it's great that Mommy is willing to safekeep them for me. Wu Yuding was speechless. This 3-legged grandson seemed a little silly that when she turned around, she saw Zhuo Xiaonian pouting and looking at her husband and wife. 3 words were clearly written in her eyes. I want them too. All right. Wu Yuding and Zhuo Changlu had no choice but to take out their spatial rings again and rolled their eyes. Here are 4 pieces of heavenly aqua mysterious ice. For you, the promoted father. Chapter 1200. Zhuo Xiaoduo laughed heartily. Zhuo Xiaonian finally beamed with delight. Thank you, Dad and Mom. She quickly put it away, then glanced at Zhuo Xiaoduo and snorted proudly. Did you see that? I have one too. Zhuo Xiaoduo rolled his eyes and said, Silly girl, you've been promoted to be a father. That means you're mine. Dad and Mom are playing with the left hand to the right hand. The goodies will never fall into the hands of outsiders. Even if they give it to you, it's still given to our family. It's equivalent to giving it to me. You're so proud that your tail is wagging so high. It's none of your business. Anyway, I have one too. Dad and Mom have me in their hearts. Zhuo Xiaonian snorted. So what if I've been promoted to be a father? Dad and Mom have given me a position. I'm your man. Zhuo Xiaoduo was speechless when he saw the unprecedentedly valiant Nian Cat, who actually wanted to be his man. Since when did I become a woman? Isn't this a reversal of the universe? Just as he was about to speak, Wu Yuting smacked him on the head. Hurry up and continue. Don't look around and waste time. Don't you know that time is precious? Xiao was being held in Wu Yuting's arms at this moment, and she was being pampered in every possible way. Wu Yuting's mood at this moment was very strange. I have a grandson now, although he's a crow, but the feeling of holding him in my arms is pretty good too. Well, because of this crow grandson, I seem to have another pair of children. My son is a mother now. Thinking of her son and son-in-law, oh my God, why is my family's relationship so messed up? Next, it was the Huahuang sword's turn to appear. As it appeared, Zhuo Chonglu and Wu Yuting actually stood up and bowed to it, which was rare for them. Empress Hua's achievement of mending the sky had benefited the entire human race. In the face of Empress Hua's personal weapon, even the two of them did not dare to neglect it and gave it a very high courtesy. The sword of Empress Envihua returned the favor by slightly bending its body and vibrating thrice as a response. Zhuo Chonglu and Wu Yuting were not only the top of the human race, but also the great heroes who saved the astral souls from being enslaved by other races. In the face of such figures, even the Huahuang sword, who thought highly of himself and looked down upon everyone else, did not dare to be negligent and was very respectful. After that, Zhu Rong was so angry that he refused to come out, but it was not a big deal. Zhuo Chonglu knew about the existence of the real fire, so they did not force it. How could they communicate with a ball of fire? Therefore, it was better to avoid it. After that, it was naturally Little White and Little Jio's turn to appear. For the first time, these two little incarnations turned into a little girl and a little boy the size of a finger. They bounced out. Mama! The two little ones let out a clear cry. Zhuo Xiaoyan's face became darker and darker. She fiercely pinched Zhuo Xiaoduo and said angrily, "Damn it! You secretly gave birth to so many children by yourself. Not only do you have birds, but you also have a boy and a girl. You have both sons and daughters." Zhuo Xiaoduo rubbed his thighs, speechless. He wanted to say something, but he could not. How could I give birth to these children? Do I have that ability? These two are. Wu Yuting liked them very much, so she and Zhuo Chonglu began to look through the rings again. Fortunately, he and his wife had accumulated quite a bit of wealth over the years, and their pockets were still quite rich. Otherwise, if Little Duo were to bring out groups of people, ordinary grandparents would not be able to afford such a high-class greeting gift. After paying Bai and Jio, Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaoyan also eagerly reached out their hands. Zhuo Chonglu and his wife were speechless, so they gave them another round. Why do I feel that my title of 1 meter higher sky is becoming more and more undeserved? Zhuo Chonglu was a little disappointed. You still want to be 1 meter higher sky with your own son? Wu Yuting held Bai and Jio in her hands. The more she looked at them, the more she liked them. These two children were so delicate. If only they could be bigger, that it seemed to have sensed what Wu Yuting was thinking. Bai and Jio instantly grew in size, and in the blink of an eye, they grew to the size of a normal baby. Bai was wearing a white dress, flying back and forth happily like a little angel. Jio was wearing a red doo-doo, flying with Bai. Their crisp laughter spread all the way. Oh, stop flying. My eyes are playing tricks on me. Wu Yuting was so happy that she couldn't close her mouth. She couldn't help but ask, "Xiao Duo, where did you get these two adorable children?" When she asked this question, Zhuo Chonglu and Wu Yuting were both praying in their hearts. Please don't get those two gourds. Please don't. Even if they do, please don't be what we think. It was also a coincidence. A gourd vine entrusted them to me. Zhuo Xiaoduo's words mercilessly interrupted Zhuo Chonglu and Wu Yuting's slight hope. Their fantasies instantly turned into bubbles. Then, look at these two Xiao Duo. They're so cute. How can I not bring them out? Moreover, they are absolutely good babies. They will be a great help to me, Zhuo Xiaoduo said. Mama, we are not good babies. We are good children. Bai pouted and cried in grievance. She began to act coquettishly. Okay, yes, you're good children. Zhuo hurriedly corrected himself. He had a motherly smile on his face, which was very affectionate. Zhuo Changlu's expression became very serious. Wu Yuding's face also stiffened. You didn't promise anything, did you? Wu Yuding asked cautiously. Don't you know me? Do you think I would casually promise something big? Zhuo replied casually. I think about everything carefully. That's good, that's good. Wu Yuding patted her chest and finally felt relieved. I did promise that Calabash Vine. If there is an opportunity, I will definitely bring them and their 7 brothers and sisters together with their families. I will satisfy the old Calabash Vine's wish, and that will be it. Everyone will be happy and reunited. It is just a small matter. It is not worth mentioning. It is just a small matter. Zhuo laughed and waved his hand generously. It is not worth mentioning. At this moment, Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding were lucky that they did not drink tea. Otherwise, they would have splashed tea all over Zhuo's face. Even so, their bodies still stiffened. Their 4 eyes looked at their son, who had a heroic look on his face. He waved his hand and said that it was a small matter. They felt as if 1 billion alpacas were galloping in their hearts. In an instant, the whole world was filled with alpacas. What was this small matter worth mentioning? Even if the 9 continents were added together, it did not seem to be as important as this matter. What kind of terrifying karma was this? You agreed just like that? You agreed so easily and confidently? Wu Yuding looked at her son with a hint of despair in her eyes. It is just a small matter. It is not worth mentioning. Zhuo laughed and said, Why can't I agree? It is just a gathering for a few calabashes. I did not say that all of them must gather. It is fine to meet one every few days. Mom, are you okay? Wu Yuding rolled her eyes and collapsed on the sofa. Her face was pale, her breathing was rapid, her body was stiff, and she was sweating profusely. I do not want to live anymore. How did this old lady raise such a troublemaking demoness? It is fine that you're causing trouble in the Astral Souls continent, but you even went to the Umno Alliance, that you even provoked the demon race and the elf race, if that is all. It is still it is fine. But you actually agreed to this big matter that no one has dared to agree to since the beginning of time. They did not even dare to think about it. You want to reunite all of the calabashes and gather all of them? Even if it is just meeting one every few days, it is not something that can be done. Okay? Wu Yuding closed her eyes. I am afraid that before these calabashes meet, our whole family will be reunited in the underworld. My son, she heard 2 tender voices calling in her ears. Grandma, what happened to you? After hearing these 2 voices, Wu Yuding suddenly regained her courage. No matter what, she still needed to help her son. How could she be so desperate now? How could she carry on then? Besides, as long as she practiced hard, this sage may not be undefeatable. She had even gone through the difficult cultivation experience of transforming into immortal dust. When she thought of this, Wu Yuding felt extremely guilty, but she still forced herself to sit up. Looking at Zhuo, she finally couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Damn, you're really Mother's good son. Mother was able to give birth to a son like you in this life. In her previous life, how many sins did she commit? Zhuo Changlu said unhappily. What are you talking about? What do you mean by previous life? He sighed and said, It should be the accumulation of karma for countless lifetimes. Even the ancestral graves are smoking. The interrogation that father and mother Zhuo presided over was so shocked by the appearance of Bai and Jiu that they could not continue. At this moment, Zhuo and Zhuo Xiaoyan were surprised and even more confused. To the young couple's knowledge, their parents were comfortable people who did not have to worry about anything. Even if they had the halo of the minister inspecting sky and the minister's wife, it was only an additional identity of a cultivator who had reached a high level in the Tao. In this world, there should not be anyone or anything that could move them so much to the point of losing their composure like this. Seeing that his parents had entered the room to discuss matters, Zhuo did not pick up the 3 little ones. He let them run around in the yard. Then he turned around and stared at Zhuo Xiaoyan. It seems that Mom and Dad are so happy to see 3 grandchildren at once that they are a little out of place. Zhuo said. Ha! Zhuo was as cold as ice. She said with a straight face, "You are so good at giving birth." Hee hee. What are you talking about? Is this something you should say as a father? Moreover, although they are quite good, they are not as good as you. You are the one who gave birth to our children. Zhuo said with a drooling face. What nonsense are you talking about? Zhuo was embarrassed, anxious, and embarrassed. Who wants to give birth to your children? You give birth to mine. I don't want to give birth to yours. 10 is enough. I don't want to have so many children for a football team. No, that's too many. Do you think you're giving birth to piglets? 8, no less than that. No, 6. 6 is enough, right? This time it really can't be less. It's still too many. Then I will take a big step back. At least 2, 1 boy and 1 girl. This is already my bottom line. Don't step on my bottom line again and again. 2. This can still be considered. Waha, you agreed. Bah, I didn't agree. I didn't. You are bullying me. Chapter 1201. Zhuo was so embarrassed that she turned and ran away. Zhuo naturally chased after her. They laughed all the way. Then, the 3 little ones by Jiao and Xiao started running behind Zhuo. Zhuo chased after Zhuo, and Zhuo fled all over the place, leaving a trail of tails behind her that lay Changtian, and Bai Yunduo watched and couldn't help but sigh. It's good to be young. At this moment, Zhuo and Zhuo, who were playing around, didn't know how worried their parents were. They only cared about having fun. The minister inspector and the minister's wife, the 2 big shots, sat down in the room. They felt weak all over, as if their bodies had been sucked dry. They didn't speak for a long time. Our son is obviously here to collect debts. He really has your genes. He provokes wherever he can't. After provoking, he doesn't take it seriously. He's a typical example of fearless ignorance. Wu Yuding slumped on the chair and said weakly, "But with the things he has done, we can't handle it with just these 2 old bones." Zhuo Changlu was also a little annoyed. He said, "We have to do it even if we can't. After all, we gave birth to him. Let's think about who we'll be facing." Wu Yuding murmured, "I feel weak every time I think about it. There aren't many people." Zhuo Changlu said, "We'll only be facing the legendary Dao ancestor, the 3 pure ones, Demon Emperor Jun, and Azura Ancestor Mingi. After that, it'll be Her Majesty Empress Hua, right? If the legends are right." Zhuo Changlu sighed and said, "At most, we'll only have to deal with the 7 people mentioned above." "Haha, that's all." Wu Yuding rolled her eyes. "Your Excellency Minister, your heart is really big. It's so big that I have a whole new level of respect for you." Zhuo Changlu shrugged. "What can I do if I'm not ambitious enough? The trouble has already been brought back by your son. Are you not going to take the blame? Is that okay?" Wu Yuding pulled a long face and said, "Anyway, I can't help it. I gave birth to him. I can't do anything about it. I gave birth to her. Besides, the others are a bit stronger, especially Her Majesty Empress Hua. She might be easy to talk to. After all, the Huahuang sword is in Duoduo's hands. So, there should be some kinship. The most difficult one should be Her Majesty Demon Empress." Wu Yuding thought about it and became extremely melancholy. "We turned his son into our grandson, and we still have to ask him for a gourd." Zhuo Changlu also felt that this was the most difficult one. He paused and thought for a while. Then, he rubbed his hands and said, "If Her Majesty Demon Empress is willing, she can also let Xiao Duo worship her as a godfather or something. Wouldn't that make up for the seniority?" Wu Yuding rolled her eyes. "Do you think that these peak experts are all stupid like Flood?" The 2 of them discussed for a long time, but they still felt helpless. The 2 of them were still in melancholy when they suddenly saw Zhuo Duo and Zhuo rushing in. "Dad, Ma, what's the matter?" Zhuo Changlu's face darkened. "Why didn't you knock on the door before rushing in? Where are your manners?" "Ha ha ha." Zhuo Duo scratched his head and laughed foolishly. "I thought of something, and I feel that it's necessary to tell you too. What's the big deal? Why are you in such a hurry?" Wu Yuting's face darkened when she heard the word old. Her eyes were very unfriendly. Aside from causing trouble, this brat actually thinks that my mom is old. She suddenly wanted to beat him up. I still have something to tell you. It's not a big deal, but it's not a small one either. Zhuo Xiaoduo said. What's the matter? Say it. Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuting instinctively sat up straight. They actually looked a little nervous. The dignified heaven-inspecting minister couple, whose temperament had been tempered for countless years, had been ruined by their son in just a few days. Now, they were about to become birds that were startled by the twang of a bow. Since this brat said that it was not a big deal, but it was not a small one either, then it was definitely not a small matter. After hearing about the reunion of the calabash and the wish of a family reunion, the two of them were exceptionally fragile. It's not a bad thing, Zhuo Xiaoduo said proudly. I forgot to give you something. What good thing? Zhuo Xiaoduo laughed and took out the huge piece of heaven-mending stone from the spatial extermination pagoda. This was a complete piece. It was the size of a human head, perfectly round, and faintly glowing with a 5-colored halo. Zhuo Changlu's eyes turned solemn, and he said coldly, Stop. However, the moment Zhuo Xiaoduo took out the heaven-mending stone, his newly promoted fairy cultivation erupted for the first time. With a crisp crack, the 5-colored heaven-mending jade in his hand was broken into many pieces. Each piece was the size of a baby's fist. It was divided into 24 pieces, 24 equal parts. Although he had just advanced, his control of his strength was still very good. Zhuo Zhonglu and Wu Yuting, the couple, stood up in shock after witnessing such a tragic scene with their own eyes. Looking at the broken heaven-mending jade, they only felt their minds go blank at this legendary divine item. A super treasure that could heal any kind of injury, a treasure that could instantly replenish one's vitality. Was broken by Zhuo Xiaoduo just like that? What are you doing? Wu Yuting was so heartbroken that she could not breathe. Her eyes were red. Zhuo Changlu was also furious. He rubbed his fists and was eager to give a try. It was obvious that he was about to lose control of his temper and give this prodigal son a good beating. He had to give him a good beating with his fists. I didn't do anything. So Xiaoduo jumped in fright and said in horror, I just feel that. We are often not together. This thing, you and my mother each carry a piece with you, and each of us also keep a piece with us in case of emergencies. This good thing is for us to use. His anger instantly disappeared. The husband and wife stood there in a daze. At that moment, they only felt a warm feeling in their hearts. So, our son was worried about us and gave us treasures. But you didn't have to break it. Wu Yuting felt so warm that she wanted to cry. But at the same time, she was also heartbroken. She said, Isn't there a small piece? That piece doesn't have much internal energy left. How is it enough? Zhuo Xiaoduo pulled his mother's hand over and placed 2 pieces of heaven-nourishing jade on it. He said, These 2 pieces, you and my father each have one. Nian Mao, you take one too. This thing can save your life. It's very useful for prolonging your life. It's also very durable. Zhuo Xiaoduo also placed 1 piece in Zhuo Xiaoyan's hand. Then he thought for a while and took out 10 pieces. Also, senior brother and senior sister, grandpa, and others. Father, you could divide them as you see fit. Zhuo Changlu took a deep breath and said, How can we use so many? This is heaven-nourishing jade. Do you want everyone to have one? Since I'm giving it to you, it's yours. You can divide it as you see fit. Then, I still have 11 pieces in my hand. It's enough. Zhuo Xiaoduo put the rest into the space of the Tower of Annihilation. 10 pieces were buried under the mountains, and 1 piece was placed in the space ring in case of emergency. After the distribution, Zhuo Xiaoduo clapped his hands and said with a smile, Life is unpredictable. Our family can only be at ease if we have this heaven-nourishing jade to protect ourselves. You silly child. Zhuo Zhonglu smiled with gratification. He took a piece of heaven-mending stone that was the size of an infant's fist. He slightly congealed his strength in his palm, and with a schwa schwa schwa, he divided the entire heaven-mending stone into 10 pieces. Each piece was 1 centimeter thick. He sensed the energy reserves inside and said in a deep voice, "Just this one piece is enough for your senior brother to recover 5 times. How can we use so many? If we can't escape or win after 5 times of recovery, then we'll still die after 500 times of recovery." That's what Changlu said. "I'll make the appropriate arrangements. Leave 3 pieces for us. It's enough. We don't need more. If you don't need it, you and my mother can keep it for yourselves." That's what Xiaoduo said. "Anyway, I won't take back what I've given out." Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding smiled warmly. They looked at each other and said, "Okay." Their son's filial piety made the husband and wife feel comfortable all over. They felt especially comfortable in their hearts. At that moment, they felt that, even if they fought against a few saints for their son, it seemed, they still couldn't fight back. After measuring the elemental energy reserve in the heaven-nourishing jade, Zhuo Changlu couldn't help but calculate in his heart. The number of jade pieces cut into such pieces was still limited, but it was enough for the higher-ups of the astral souls. As for those below the marshal, it would depend on the specific situation. He couldn't give 1 piece to each person. Among the 4 major legions in the east, west, north, and south, he would give 1 piece to each of the 4 marshals and leave 1 piece for the entire legion in case of emergency. It would be enough. There was also Yin Zhonghu by Yin Duo, Yu Dongtian, and the others. After all, everyone was a leader. If one of their subordinates was fatally injured, it would be enough to take out the multicolored stone to save them. This thing was naturally good, but it shouldn't be distributed too widely. Moreover, it couldn't be made known to everyone. Otherwise, it would cause a lot of unnecessary trouble done in this way, so Xiaoduo gave them a total of 12 stones, and at least 9 of them could be kept as backup. This was a top-notch resource. Unless it was a last resort, they would definitely not use it. Seeing Zhuo Changlu divide the heaven-nourishing jade, Zhuo Xiaoyan, who understood his intention, said happily, "This is great. With this, the number of casualties in the future will. You think too much. This thing is good, and it is worthy of being a top-notch resource. However, it is not a renewable resource. There must be a limit to its use." Zhuo Changlu rolled his eyes and said, "If there are no strict restrictions, and it is directly handed to the army, do you believe that those 4 idiots can make it all in 1 day? Then, they'll turn around and ask you for more. Even if you say that you don't have it, they won't believe you and will make a fuss about it. Even if they figure out how rare this thing is, they won't care too much about it. If they use it, then they use it. If they don't use it, then they don't have it. But when it really comes to the critical moment, they will regret it and be caught unprepared. This point must be considered again and again." Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding both pondered carefully. Tens of thousands of people died in the Sun Moon Pass every day. No one was willing to lose any bit of battle damage. However, this heaven-nourishing jade was useful for anyone who was on the verge of death, but it could not be used on everyone who was on the verge of death. This choice would most likely become a great trial of conscience in the future. A person's own value, especially at such a critical moment of life and death, became extremely important. There was no fairness in the world. It was even more so in the face of life. Both were terminally ill and seriously injured. Some people could recover as good as new, while others could only wait for death. However, this unfairness was something that Zhuo Changlu had to create by himself. After all, the heaven-nourishing jade was not a cold medicine. Zhuo Xiaoyan also copied Zhuo Changlu and cut her heaven-nourishing jade into 10 pieces. She also carried 1 piece with her and kept the other 9 pieces carefully. This thing is more precious than a love token. Why did you copy your father and break it into pieces? Wu Yuding looked at Zhuo Xiaoyan and teased her. Zhuo Xiaoyan did not blush at all. She held her head high and said, "Since it was given to me, it's mine. How I deal with it is my business. So what if it's more precious than a love token? I'll accept it and deal with it." Wu Yuding chuckled and pretended to be evil. She said, "Girl, you've already received so many gifts from our family. I'm afraid you've already received thousands of love tokens like this. Isn't it about time you give my son some benefits? Zhou Xiaoyan's face turned red. She twisted her body and said unhappily, Mom, who are you with? Wu Yuding snorted and said, My son just gave me such a big gift. Of course, I have to be with my son now. Even if I don't think so, I have to say so. Don't you know that? Zhou Xiaoyan immediately started to act coquettishly. A moment later, Are you done? Wu Yuding asked Zhou Xiaoduo. Everything is done. That's good. We can move on to the next project. Before she finished speaking, Wu Yuding pulled Zhou Xiaoduo over. She didn't even seal his cultivation. She placed him on her knees and raised her hands skillfully. A series of slaps landed on his face. Who was Wu Yuding? Her cultivation was at the peak of the world. Zhou Xiaoduo's cultivation was only at the sky realm. How could he resist her? Naturally, she could do whatever she wanted. Sealing his cultivation or not, it was unnecessary. Zhou Changlu cheered from the side. Use all your strength. Beat this prodigal up with all your might. Such a good thing was actually smashed by this little bastard with a single slap. When I saw this scene just now, I almost fainted. He's simply a prodigal. What is a prodigal? This kid is one. He's a prodigal. If we don't teach him a lesson, when will he change his prodigal habit? He doesn't know how hard life is. Little bastard, little turtle, little coward, little lamb. Slap, 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 slap. That not only did Zhou Xiaoyan not dissuade them, she even gloated and cheered them on. Mom, use all your strength. Beat him up. Let me do it too. Slap, 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 slap. Wu Yuding kept slapping him, while Zhou Xiaoyan sneakily kicked him from time to time. Mom, Dad, I'm doing this out of filial piety, a pure and innocent heart. Zhou Xiaoduo struggled. I'm doing this to contribute to our family. How is this prodigal? This is a huge contribution. I'm a hero of the family. Don't use too much strength. I still have a great mission to carry on our family's ancestral line in the future. I'm a hero. I'm not convinced. Why are you hitting me? This is not fair. Mother, you're being too unreasonable. The more Zhou Xiaoduo spoke, the angrier and more indignant he became. His words were sonorous and powerful as he retorted. So many reasons, so many great principles. I just want to hit you. Is this reason enough? Is it enough? Even if you dismantled the treasure for the sake of the big picture and filial piety. But our hearts ache. Our hearts ache so much that we want to die. Just because of our heartache, we have to hit you to relieve our pain. Otherwise, we won't be able to recover. I've already said that I dismantled it for our family. You can't even dismantle such a huge treasure. It's a waste of God's gift. Even if you give it to us, our hearts will still ache. So we hit you. What about it? So Xiaoduo was speechless. It's over. It's completely over. Is there no way to reason with them? I'm the one who contributed the good stuff, but they don't praise me, and don't stop there. They even beat me up in return. After a long, long time, Wu Yuding and Zhou Xiaoyan stopped and let go of Zhou Xiaoduo. Zhou Xiaoduo stood up sadly and covered his swollen buttocks. His eyes were full of speechlessness. Dad, you're not upholding justice. Everything has to be reasonable. Haha, this is a family matter. Do family matters need to be reasonable? No, at least not in our family. Zhou Changlu said, Actually, you should feel lucky. Dad can only watch them beat you up for the sake of face. I'm really sorry that I didn't get to do it myself. I can't enjoy it. How can it be better to do it myself than to do it myself? Ugh. So Xiaoduo wisely shut his mouth. With his shallow cultivation, he would not be able to get rid of the shadow of the minister in front of him for many years to come, even if he didn't live for the rest of his life. A wise man submits to circumstances. Bear with it for a while, and the wind will be calm. Take a step back, and the sky will be clear. Zhou Xiaoduo soon became complacent. I'm wise enough to protect myself. I can be considered a wise man. After giving away the things, Zhou Xiaoduo, who was relieved, cut the piece in his hand into thin slices like Father Zhou, and prepared to give one to Li Chenglong and his wife. Even the 4 major corps had some. How could his brothers not have some? Dad, if I were to give these to Li Chenglong and his wife, how many IOUs should I give? You have a discerning eye and know the market. I'm really about buy in this aspect. Don't lose money, Zhuo asked uncertainly. His attitude was very humble. Zhuo kicked Zhuo and sent him flying. How many IOUs should I give? You can give me as many as you want. I get angry when I hear that I'm going to give them away. This is definitely a losing deal. There were only the two of them in the room. Wu Yuting looked at the heaven-nourishing jade in her hand lovingly. Her eyes were a little red. My son gave it to me to save my life. My son is willing to give up anything for his parents, no matter how precious it is. I didn't give birth to you for nothing. Zhuo heart was also extremely warm. Thinking of the moment when Zhuo crushed the heaven-nourishing jade without hesitation, Zhuo eyes were full of gratification and warmth. However, he still scolded, "It's too wasteful. You wish, you old thing." Wu Yuting rolled her eyes. Zhuo followed Zhuo out. Zhuo looked around to make sure there was no one around. Suddenly, he said with a serious expression, "Nian Mao, why haven't I seen your ice spirit after you flew into the sky?" Zhuo said, "There wasn't any battle. Why do you want to see her? There's a huge taboo in this heaven-nourishing jade. You must be careful," Zhuo said seriously. "What taboo?" Zhuo suddenly became nervous. "Will it cause harm to Xiaoduo?" Zhuo took a deep breath. He looked around and said, "It's not convenient to talk here. Come with me. I'll tell you in detail." After that, he pulled the concerned Zhuo into the Tower of Annihilation. Now, the Tower of Annihilation was empty as far as the eye could see. What secrets does this puppy have? "Your son." Sigh. Zhuo sighed. "Nian Mao is too honest. Sooner or later, she'll be cheated by him until she has nothing left." Wu Yuting curled her lips and said, "In the end, she still obediently gives birth to children for the Zhuo family. Just like me. Like father, like son. Men are all bad." Zhuo quickly changed the topic. "What are we eating tonight?" "Eat your head." Wu Yuting got up and left angrily. Zhuo touched his chin and went out. He called out to Lei Changtian, who was looking at Li Chenglong and the others. "Second brother, come here for a while." "Coming, boss." Lei Changtian came over and said, "What's the matter? Drink with me tonight. Let's have a good chat. By the way, I'll give you something good to save your life." Zhuo said, "Go and ask Ting Er to make a few dishes." "Okay, I promise to complete the task." Lei Changtian expressed that he was very excited. Boss was becoming more and more pleasant to me recently. Hence, he hurried to find Wu Yuting. "Rainy, make a few more dishes tonight. Boss and I will drink some. Make more spirit beast meat, especially the tendons of the hoof." Whoosh! A fried ladle flew out and almost hit Lei Changtian's head. Lei Changtian was dumbfounded. Drink, drink, drink every day. Can't you use your brain? You set up your daughter and grandson. After setting up your grandson, you're being used as a tool to set up your daughter. Can't you do something decent? Can't you?" Wu Yuting's trembling voice came from afar. It was deafening and thought-provoking. "Zhuo, you can order your father-in-law to deal with your own wife. You played this trick very well. You played it very well. Since ancient times, you are also the first one to do so." For a moment, the Sky Surveyor throne and the demon ancestor were both dejected and scolded for a long time. Both of them were speechless. This temper, Zhuo sighed helplessly. "Boss." Lei Changtian transmitted his voice nervously. "These years, it's been hard on you." Zhuo looked helpless and sad. It was as if he had suffered many grievances these years. Lei Changtian felt more and more uncomfortable. "Sigh. It's all my fault for spoiling her. Then you can talk about her. It's not too late to correct her now." "I don't dare." "Then why did you say that?" "Boss is right." After scolding for a long time, Wu Yuting finally remembered something very important. "Sigh. I only know how to drink and chat. I can't even remember to do something serious. In a while, I'll go and lay the foundation for Gouda and watch him refine that." "That." Zhuo understood tacitly. "Understood. That." Lei Changtian scratched his head. "What's the matter? What's that? Even I can't know." Zhui Changlu and Wu Yuding looked at him with a strange gaze. You don't need to know. When the time comes, you just need to guard and do your work. You don't want to tell me anything. I don't have the right to know. But do I have the right to be your worker? Is that what you mean? Lei Changtian was angry. Other people's son-in-law is their father-in-law's worker. But when it comes to me, I don't know if I should curse him or not. That's all for today. Today is a special day for me. It's our engagement anniversary. My wife said that she'll make me pork ribs, beef, chicken drumsticks, half a duck, some vegetables, and chive pancakes. She asked me to go back early and said that I'm allowed to drink tonight. Let's celebrate. So I won't write tonight. Hee hee. So I'll update in the afternoon tomorrow. Life is a ball of hemp. It's a flower made of hemp. That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.